Chapter 1756. The reporter, who was being watched by everyone, could not help but feel nervous. He stuttered, "Corpse King Su Yu. Corpse King him?" The crowd erupted. As expected, he joined the corpse race. That damned traitor! The female pavilion venerable was furious. If I had known that this would happen, I would have killed him with a single palm strike. The limitless sword saint wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, got up from the ground, and laughed. "Now do you believe me? You don't believe me when I say he's a traitor? What else do you have to say?" He had nothing to say. He had already become a corpse king, a core member of the corpse race. What else was there to say? At this moment, they had no time to care about why Su Yu's cultivation was qualified to become a corpse king. They had already been blinded by anger. "Guards!" The female pavilion venerable's eyes shone fiercely. "Imprison Blood Guanyin, Mu Songhai, and Yin Changhong. Investigate them strictly." Blood Guanyin's eyes were filled with disappointment. "You don't even believe us?" The female cabinet venerable looked at her coldly. "These are extraordinary times. It's not up to you to decide. Arrest him." Mu Songhai and Yin Changhong had already received Su Yu's instructions. They sighed and stood silently at their original positions, not taking any action. But Shui Guanyin's face was filled with dissatisfaction. "I don't believe, brother, Su Yu will become like this. I want to ask him in person." Shua, leaving behind an afterimage, the Blood Guanyin rushed out of the hall. The female pavilion venerable's eyes were ice cold. "You're courting death." She slapped Shui Guanyin's back across the air, slapping Shui Guanyin's speeding figure into the stone pillar. With a cracking sound, the stone pillar broke. From this, one could see how heavy this palm was. The Blood Guanyin rolled on the ground a few times, her chest stained with blood. Many of the bones of his body were shattered, and he was seriously injured. "Cabinet Master, please give me a chance to ask him in person." Blood Guanyin supported herself on the stone pillar and stood up tremblingly. She had a pleading look on her face. "After I get an answer, I will definitely come back and accept the punishment of the Life Alliance. I will never run away." The female pavilion supreme's face was as cold as iron. "What if you escape?" Shui Guanyin smiled sadly. "I was born in the Star Pavilion and grew up in the Star Pavilion. It was you who watched me grow up. Don't you believe in me?" The female pavilion master snorted coldly with an expressionless face. "Who knows what kind of person you are? Men, capture him." Several figures flashed past and immediately grabbed the Blood Guanyin. The ice-cold chains pierced into her flesh, causing her to scream in pain. Even so, Shui Guanyin clenched her teeth and said stubbornly, "Cabinet Master, you must be wrong. Brother Su Yu must have his own difficulties. He must have pa." The female pavilion venerable ran out of patience. Her figure flashed, and she leaped in front of Shui Guanyin. She raised her hand and gave her a slap on the mouth. She scolded angrily. "You refuse to come to your senses. One more word, and I'll slap you to death in front of everyone. Take him away and search his soul." Yes. With the clanking sound of the chains, the three of them were taken away. The female pavilion venerable looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh. "The Star Pavilion has failed to educate people properly. I'm responsible for bringing up such an ignorant disciple like her." The others comforted him. "You don't have to blame yourself, Cabinet Master. Blood Guanyin is young and inexperienced. She was just deceived by others. The culprit is Su Yu. Now that he has come to challenge you, I hope you can make a decision quickly." The female pavilion master nodded slowly, her eyes full of murderous intent. Let's go and see if that traitor still has the face to see us." Everyone walked out of the main hall and walked to the city wall. "Cabinet Master, why don't you let me take him down a notch first?" The limitless sword saint stepped forward and said, "He has just entered the corpse clan and is eager to challenge the alliance of living beings. He is obviously eager to gain the trust of the corpse clan. If I defeat him before the challenge even starts, I don't know what the corpse clan will think of him." The three cabinet masters looked at the limitless sword saint, their eyes filled with doubt. The female pavilion venerable said in a low voice, "On this trip to the new empire, Blood Guanine obtained an opportunity and broke through to become the glazed crystal overlord. Su Yu is full of schemes, and I'm afraid he has obtained more than Blood Guanine. Are you a match for him? Their doubts fell into the ears of the limitless sword saint and hurt his pride. Don't worry, cabinet masters. After all, Su Yu's cultivation foundation is limited. No matter how much he improves, what level can he reach? The limitless sword saint said disdainfully. The Snow Dragon Emperor said faintly, Ancient dream altar. This man won the first place. We can't underestimate him. Humph. Isn't it all because of those dirty tricks? The limitless sword saint did not agree with Su Yu's victory at all. Please let me teach him a lesson on behalf of the Alliance of Living Beings. Everyone's hearts were as clear as a mirror. The limitless sword saint's hatred for Su Yu was not groundless. Everyone knew that Su Yu had stolen the limitless sword saint's fiancée, Empress Wei. He made repeated requests, and the three cabinet masters looked at each other and nodded in agreement. The female pavilion venerable said, All right, I hope you will bring honor to the Alliance of Living Beings. If Su Yu dares to accept the challenge, then wait for me to make a fool of myself. The crowd came to the city wall and glanced down. Their faces changed. They saw the traitor of the Alliance of Living Beings, Su Yu, surrounded by 9 corpse kings, rushing toward the city wall at a moderate pace. The bewitching and beautiful Pearl Corpse King held Su Yu's arm intimately, and the other 9 corpse kings accompanied Su Yu on his left and right. They looked friendly, talking and laughing with Su Yu. They did not seem to treat Su Yu as a newcomer, but more like old friends who had known each other for many years. The Alliance of Living Beings had imagined that Su Yu would come alone to challenge them, and ask for their trust did not happen. Instead, he was accompanied by many corpse kings. Seeing this scene, the limitless sword saint was even more furious. Why? When Su Yu was in the Alliance of Living Beings, his own fiancée had been seduced. How could he do the same in the evil corpse clan and be favored by the corpse kings? Under his watchful eyes, Su Yu came to the city wall with a relaxed look, and the corners of his mouth curled into a playful smile. Everyone surprised? I'm back. The female pavilion venerable angrily rebuked, shameless. As a member of the Alliance of Living Beings, you betrayed us and joined the corpse clan. Now you have the face to challenge us. Haha, why should I be ashamed? I went through fire and water for the Alliance of Living Beings, but you easily erased all my past achievements. I joined the corpse clan, but I was put in an important position and trusted, so I raised my head and came to challenge you. He took out a string of bone bracelets, and one of the heads belonged to the deceased Southern Sea Killer Emperor. Su Yu then threw the letter of challenge over to him. Everyone's pupils constricted. The head of the killing emperor. The Alliance of Living Beings stared at Su Yu with hatred burning like fire. The limitless sword saint was provoked, and his hatred rose. He roared, Su, you took my fiancée and let go the enemy who killed my father. You and I are irreconcilable. His roar shook the heavens and the earth, venting his boundless anger, and the listeners were shocked. Su Yu snorted. Those who dare to wield their sword against the strong are warriors, and those who only dare to use violence against the weak are cowards. If the killing emperor were still alive, he wouldn't want to see you like this. The limitless sword saint's eyes were red. Ha ha, everyone says I am a coward. My father was a hero who killed the killing emperor, but so what? Didn't he die tragically in the hands of this demon woman? He had lost his mind, and he looked like a beast, which was pitiful. Ha! Zhuji said disdainfully. Do you think you are worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as your father? He dared to make an oath to kill me, and he kept his promise, fighting with me until the last moment, and died in battle. He is worthy of my admiration. Were you? You don't even have the courage to draw your sword against me. She had killed the killing emperor with her own hands, but she had never looked down on him. Instead, she respected him. The limitless sword saint looked at her, his eyes flickering with fear. He scolded her fiercely. Don't pretend to be kind. If you really admire him, why did you kill him? Zhuji said lightly. I never said that I was the one who killed the killing emperor. However, this necklace of skulls was given to me by your father before he died. Take it as a token of gratitude for his mercy." Su Yu's eyes turned slightly. He had asked about this before. It was true that Zhuji had fought with the killing emperor, but it would have been difficult for her to kill a divine warrior of heaven and earth of the same level as her alone. It was the corpse emperor. Zhuji had no choice but to kill the emperor, so she could only watch him leave. However, the corpse emperor had chosen to attack and killed the killing emperor with a thunderous attack. In fact, Zhuji had also been attacked by the corpse emperor, but the corpse emperor had not been absolutely sure that he could kill Zhuji, so she had escaped. However, the current rumors were that Zhuji had killed the killing emperor, and she was too lazy to explain. Who needs your explanation? Anyway, the corpse clan is not a good thing. You should all be killed. The limitless sword saint shouted. Zhuji's face was calm and unruffled. She had heard such words too many times and was already numb to them. Su Yu, you are helping the wicked. You are more hateful than the corpse clan, and you should be killed. If you're still a man, fight me one-on-one now. The limitless sword saint pulled out his long sword and pointed it at Su Yu from afar. So you could see what he was thinking at a glance. He thought it was childish. Sorry, I'm tired today. I'm not interested in fighting you. Su Yu refused without hesitation. The limitless sword saint sneered provocatively. You really are not a man. You don't even have this little bit of courage. Su Yu shrugged. Whether I'm a man or not, I need a woman to prove it. Brother Wuji, although you are very handsome, this is not my style. Hearing this, the corpse clan burst into laughter. The limitless sword saint's face turned red, but on second thought, he smiled eerily. Since you don't have the guts, then I can only look for your woman, Shui Guanyin. She is now imprisoned in the Alliance's cage. She must be living a life worse than death. She just needs a man to comfort her. The Alliance of Living Beings frowned deeply. Such behavior was really not in line with their original intentions. Several cabinet masters also frowned. Su Yu was a traitor, but the limitless sword saint's character was really hard to compliment. The female cabinet master regretted letting him represent the Alliance of Living Beings. The limitless sword saint was unaware of this. He said sternly, I will ask you again. Do you accept my challenge? So he stopped in his tracks and looked back slowly. There was an apology in the depths of his eyes. He had implicated Shui Guanyin. In other words, Su Yu had underestimated the ruthlessness of the Starry Tower's cabinet masters. When he stared at the limitless sword saint again, Su Yu's eyes regained their calmness. He said, Fine, I accept. Ha 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 ha. The limitless sword saint let out a long roar and flew down the city wall. Chapter 1757. Although Zhu Ji had not seen Su Yu's recent improvement in strength, his confident demeanor made her believe him. She smiled sweetly and did not ask him to stay. The two of them walked to the front of the two armies and stood still. The limitless sword saint had a sinister look in his eyes. Su Yu, I have long wanted to spar with you, but you are lucky and always have a woman to protect you. Now you're not so lucky. Su Yu's face was expressionless, as if he had not been provoked at all. No one could read Su Yu's mind at the moment. Clang! With one hand, the Azura sword flashed in his palm. The blood-red broadsword emitted a shocking sword light. The limitless sword saint struck first. Limitless sword energy. His swordsmanship was superb, and he had inherited the will of the Emperor Killer, full of indomitable, murderous intent. The long sword would not return to its scabbard until it killed its target. Su Yu's eyes were indifferent as he took a step forward, the Azura sword in his hand slashing down. A vast expanse of demonic flames instantly engulfed the entire world, including the armies of both sides, falling into an illusion. From the ordinary zombies and creatures to the peak overlords, everyone fell into a momentary trance. The limitless sword saint was no exception. He was at a loss for a while, and when he regained his senses, a blood-red long sword was already 10 feet above his head. The limitless sword saint was horrified. He put away the long sword in his hand and turned to flee. Whoosh! Although he managed to escape, his clothes were shredded by the sword chi, revealing his naked body, which was exposed in front of the crowd. What greeted him was the laughter of the Corpse Clan. On the other hand, the Living Alliance was embarrassed. The strength of the limitless Sword Saint is just a bluff, isn't it? He was beaten until he had no clothes to wear. A woman blushed and glanced at the naked, limitless Sword Saint. This is too embarrassing. All the creatures in the sea of constellations are watching. He was just recommending himself, thinking that he was very confident. Who knew he was so weak? Hey, it's not that he is weak, it's that Su Yu is too nature-defying. It seems like the cabinet masters were right to worry. Even the Blood Guanine obtained such a great opportunity from the trip to the Empire of the Yu. It doesn't make sense for Su Yu to be stagnant. Su Yu said calmly, "It seems like you haven't inherited your father's essence. You should have an indomitable, murderous intent, but you are shrinking back. How strong can such a murderous intent be?" The Limitless Sword Saint was humiliated and angry. He had jokingly asked Su Yu to teach him, and in the end, he was really taught by Su Yu. What made him even more furious was that he had been forced into such a sorry state by his sword. He hurriedly used his god power to protect himself and shouted, "Surnamed Su, you are despicable." What kind of challenge was this? If you don't have the courage to fight seriously, then get lost and go home. Don't be a disgrace here. Forgive this Sword Saint for not accompanying you, lest I lower my status. Everyone was speechless. Anyone with a discerning eye could clearly see who was stronger and who was weaker. However, the Limitless Sword Saint's words made it seem as if Su Yu wasn't qualified to fight the Limitless Sword Saint. With that, the Limitless Sword Saint turned around and left. Although he looked fierce on the surface, he knew better than anyone else how dangerous that sword was. And he could clearly feel that Su Yu hadn't used his full strength at all. His back was already drenched in cold sweat. How could he dare to continue fighting? Su Yu's face was indifferent. He raised the Azura sword in his hand again and said coldly, "Since the lesson is over, let me send you on your way." With that, he activated the Azura sword with all his might. The momentum of this sword was shocking, more than twice as powerful as the previous one. The Limitless Sword Saint's heart was beating wildly. He turned his head and shouted anxiously, "Surnamed Su, the challenge is over. Why are you still attacking?" Su Yu's tone was indifferent. "For the sake of the Blood Guanine, you'd better stay." With a slash of the sword, the Limitless Sword Saint was reduced to ashes, leaving nothing behind. The three cabinet seniors on the city wall didn't even have time to react. They could only watch the Limitless Sword Saint die tragically under the sword. The female cabinet senior stared at Su Yu coldly. "Are you determined to go against the alliance of living beings?" Su Yu casually wiped the remaining divine blood on the Azura sword and said indifferently, "Now that things have come to this, do you still expect me to repent? I have already issued a letter of challenge. In 3 days, the two armies will fight to the death. Do you dare to accept the challenge?" The female cabinet senior clenched the letter of challenge, her eyes filled with monstrous hatred. Seeing that he was about to agree, the two cabinet seniors, the Purple Dream Divine Master and the Snow Dragon Divine Master, looked over. "Cabinet Senior, don't fall into the trap. There is a great disparity in strength between the two sides. If we surround them without attacking, we can still hold on for a while. A rash decisive battle is not good for us." After all, the female cabinet senior had lived for many years. She immediately calmed down and said hatefully, "Su Yu, the alliance of living beings will remember this forever, and one day we will pay for it. Keep the letter of challenge for yourself." Humph. After throwing down the letter of challenge, they turned and left. Su Yu looked a little disappointed. He had angered the alliance of living beings again and again. Were they not going to fall into the trap? Whether it was letting Mu Songhai send the message, taking the initiative to issue the letter of challenge, or killing the Limitless Sword Saint in public, he was provoking them. It seemed that his plan was not comprehensive enough. He needed to make a new plan to push the two sides into a decisive battle. The letter of challenge floated down, falling all the way down the city wall. However, when it was about to fall to the ground, it was lifted by a strange force and floated up into the air, back to the female cabinet senior. The female cabinet senior was stunned. Suddenly, an old and powerful command floated above her head. Accept the challenge. It was the chief cabinet master of the Starry Pavilion, Huangfu Liang. The three cabinet seniors knelt down on one knee, and the Purple Dream Divine Master and the Snow Dragon Divine Master also saluted. No one would have thought that the legendary chief cabinet master would be alerted. The female cabinet senior said, "But Chief Cabinet Master, our current situation, instead of dying slowly, it's better to fight to the death." They seemed to be only defending and not attacking, but every time the two sides fought, there would be living beings dying. They had lost their main force. On the other hand, the fallen living beings of the Corpse Clan could be transformed into members of the Corpse Clan, and they were getting stronger and stronger. The alliance of living beings seemed strong, but in fact, it would not last for long. The alliance had long thought of breaking out of the encirclement, but the chief cabinet master was in isolation, and they could not make up their minds. Now that the chief cabinet senior had spoken, how could they hesitate? The female cabinet senior held the letter of challenge and said respectfully, "Yes, Chief Cabinet Master." The chief cabinet master's voice did not appear again, but every living being became nervous. The temporary peace was over, and in 3 days, the most intense battle would take place. It was unknown how many of them would survive. The female cabinet senior took a look at the Corpse Clan from afar, her eyes grave, and shouted, "All the important members of the Alliance, come to the Great Hall and hold an emergency meeting." Rather than a meeting, it was more like a discussion for the decisive battle in 3 days. Suyu listened to the chief cabinet master's voice that was gradually dissipating, and the corners of his mouth curled into a nostalgic smile. "You know me best." Turning around, Suyu smiled mysteriously. "Let's go. We have to prepare for the decisive battle in 3 days." In the Pearl Palace, Suyu sat cross-legged, closing his eyes to comprehend the swordsmanship. Suyu had already familiarized himself with the 5th style of the demonic sword, the Birth of the Heart, and had established the foundation for the 6th style. It was time to start preparing to comprehend the 6th style. Judging from the power of the demonic sword, each sword was stronger than the last. If he could comprehend the 6th style, Suyu would have one more thing to rely on. Do you still have the mood to cultivate before the great battle? A fragrant wind blew over, and a peerlessly beautiful figure sat gracefully in front of Suyu. Suyu opened his eyes and pursed his lips. "The great battle that belongs to us is indeed coming. Are you all ready?" Coldness flashed across Pearl's face, and she nodded deeply. "Everything is ready. We can start at any time." "Then, let's do it now, sooner rather than later." Suyu's eyes were cold, and he gave up on cultivating and stood up slowly. In the Corpse Emperor's isolation, Lan Yu pouted and wept in front of the golden coffin. "Corpse Emperor, the Pearl Corpse King, is looking down on me more and more." The Corpse Emperor's gentle and affectionate voice came from the golden coffin. "My queen, how did she bully you this time?" Lan Yu cried even harder and said pitifully, "Not only did she take that man for herself, but she also united with the other 8 Corpse Kings and made him the new Corpse King." "The sealed Corpse King? That was supposed to be my right." The Corpse Emperor's tone was laced with murderous intent. Only the Corpse Emperor had the right to appoint a new Corpse King. Pearl had overstepped her authority, and she was openly looking down on him. The most infuriating thing is that, in order to let that pretty boy integrate into the Corpse Clan faster, she insisted that he personally issue a letter of challenge to the Living Beings Alliance, demanding a decisive battle between the 2 clans. The Corpse Emperor laughed in surprise. Pearl has put in a lot of effort for her new lover. However, it is useless. As long as the Living Beings Alliance is not stupid, they will not agree. Lan Yu was startled, and she asked suspiciously, "What if I agree?" The Corpse Emperor smiled lightly. "If I agree, Pearl's prestige will be far higher than mine, and there will be no place for me in the Corpse Clan. Even the Emperor Corpse will no longer support me." "Is it that serious?" Lan Yu's expression was solemn. The Corpse Emperor said, "Yes, so the Living Beings Alliance had better keep delaying until I come out of isolation. My cultivation has reached the peak of the One Crown Emperor, and I am about to touch the level of the Double Crown Emperor. Once I break through, the Corpse Clan will no longer have a place for Pearl Pearl. Lan Yu's breathing quickened, and she opened her mouth to exclaim. However, before he could cry out in surprise, a beautiful sound of nature broke the silence. The Corpse Monarch, can't forget this king. This king is overwhelmed by the favor. With a swoosh, Pearl Pearl and the 8 Corpse Kings appeared together. Behind them stood Su Yu, who was standing with his hands behind his back. Clang! The lid of the golden coffin was kicked away, and a majestic figure covered in white hair was revealed. Broken swords were stuck all over his body, and he looked ferocious and terrifying. There was a dragon-shaped scar on his chest that was healing quickly. He was the peerless, ferocious creature released from the ancient dream altar, the white-haired corpse. He was also the Corpse Emperor that Pearl Pearl had said was a heaven-bestowed imperial power. A natural-born emperor who could control the Corpse Clan. The Corpse Emperor had a smile on his face. Pearl Pearl, Corpse King, did you bring the other Corpse Kings to visit my injuries? This was the Emperor. He had obviously been exposed, but he was calm, as if the person who had said that he was going to get rid of the Pearl Pearl Corpse King was someone else and not him. Pearl Pearl smiled faintly. Yes, we are here to see if the Corpse Emperor is dead. If he is dead, I may be able to help you take care of the Corpse Clan. Her intentions couldn't be any clearer, but the Corpse Emperor still had a smile on his face. What if he is not dead? Chapter 1758. The Corpse Emperor's expression did not change. The Pearl Corpse King is really humorous. He was fearless. Before the Living Alliance was dealt with, the Pearl Corpse King was at most bluffing. Finally, at this moment, Lan Yu finally had a chance to speak. Corpse Emperor, the day after tomorrow will be the decisive battle between the Corpse Clan and the Living Alliance. Lan Yu shouted. The Corpse Emperor's body trembled unnoticeably, and the smile on his face stiffened slightly. The Pearl Corpse King smiled faintly. Oh, so the Corpse Emperor still doesn't know that the Living Alliance has agreed to our letter of challenge, and a decisive battle will begin in 3 days. Hearing this, the Corpse Emperor's pupils shrank deeply. How could the Living Alliance agree? How could they agree? Wouldn't that be suicidal? Who is it? Who was manipulating behind the scenes? If things were abnormal, there must be a demon. His eyes wandered, and he suddenly caught a glimpse of a creature besieged by the 9 Corpse Kings. Huh! He fixed his eyes on it, and when he saw the person's face, his expression changed dramatically. It's you. So you smiled slightly. We meet again, white-haired corpse. In the past, Su Yu and the others had accidentally destroyed the faceless Buddha's seal and released the Corpse Emperor, who had been suppressed. After 2 years, they met again. However, the situation was completely different from the last time. The Corpse Emperor was the one in trouble, not Su Yu. The Corpse Emperor touched the dull pain of the dragon-shaped injury and stared at Su Yu calmly. I heard wearers say that you are very good at scheming. Su Yu put his hands behind his back and said calmly, the word scheming doesn't sound good coming from your mouth. Taking a deep breath, the Corpse Emperor smiled lightly. So, the mastermind behind this coup is you? He looked around at the other 8 Corpse Kings. From their eyes, the Corpse Emperor saw that they had nothing to fear. Su Yu must have given them something that the Corpse Emperor could not, causing them to rebel at the same time. It's not a coup, but for the peace of the Sea of Constellations, I hope you can disappear from here on. Su Yu's tone was also calm. The conversation between the two did not sound like enemies, but like old friends who had not seen each other for many years. The Corpse Emperor smiled faintly. How can you be at ease? Of course it's to get rid of them once and for all. Su Yu chuckled. The Corpse Monarch slowly lowered his hands from behind his back and let out a long sigh. In that case, we must fight. Su Yu lowered his hand, and a dragon-shaped longsword that emitted a piercingly cold dragon's might fell into his palm. You don't have to sound so innocent and helpless. Even if today didn't happen, you never intended to let me go, right? Fear appeared in the Corpse Monarch's eyes as he stared at the dragon-shaped sword. However, it was only a trace. The Corpse Monarch looked up at the sky and laughed. Do you know today is actually the happiest day I've ever had since I broke the seal? Suyu frowned slightly as he felt that something was amiss. He stared at Suyu with a mocking gaze. Do you really think that the two words Corpse Emperor are just a title? Imperial power bestowed by the heavens is not just for show. The Corpse Emperor looked at Suyu with a pitiful gaze. If you had hidden yourself, I might not have been able to find you. It's a pity that you recklessly barged in front of me. Creak! A bright red dot like a plum blossom appeared in the center of his forehead and continued to expand. An unusual noise came from the center of the plum blossom. The Pearl Corpse King frowned and whispered to Suyu, "Husband, step back. Something seems unusual. Something is about to come out of his head." Looking at the expressions of the other Corpse Kings, all of them looked uneasy. Creak, creak. The strange noise grew louder and louder, accompanied by a white, gradually emerging from the center of the plum blossom. It was an embroidery needle made of bone. It was not appropriate to call it an embroidery needle because the words Corpse Emperor by Qi were engraved on the needle. After the appearance of the bone needle, the Pearl Corpse King trembled involuntarily and clutched his head, a look of pain flashing between his brows. The other 8 Corpse Kings were even more so. The Corpse Emperor pinched the bone needle with 2 fingers and said calmly, "The Corpse Clan has a strict hierarchy. In order to prevent the lower ranks from rebelling against the higher ranks, there is naturally a set of methods. The Corpse Emperor needle is one of them. If you have the intention to kill me within the range of the Corpse Emperor needle, your corpse souls will be pierced and you will not be able to exert 70% of your strength. If you dare to kill me, the Corpse Emperor needle will tear your corpse souls apart and you will not be able to exert 20% of your strength." Pearl's pupils shrank to the size of a needle. "You really have a deep tolerance." For a long time, the Corpse Emperor's situation in the Corpse Clan was not very good. Last time, he was almost forced to abdicate. Under those circumstances, he still did not take out the Corpse Emperor needle. Only today did he throw out this secret killing weapon. The Corpse Emperor smiled faintly. "As your Corpse Emperor, if I don't even have this bit of shrewdness, I would have been eaten by you long ago." No wonder the Corpse Emperor did not hesitate to make arrangements for 30,000 years to rescue you. So that's how it is. I have underestimated the significance of the Corpse Emperor. Pearl came to a realization. The Corpse Clan in the world was not only in Gusheng. However, there were not many Corpse Emperors. The Corpse Emperor's arrangements were very far away. Hoping that the Corpse Emperor could unify the Corpse Clan, build an even larger group of corpses, and devour even more fire seeds. It's not too late to know now. If you're willing to stand aside and watch, I can consider letting you live. Since he had forced out the Corpse Emperor needle, the Corpse Emperor definitely had no room for negotiation and completely shed all pretense of cordiality. The same goes for all of you. If you stand aside and do nothing, I can pretend that today's matter never happened. The group of Corpse Kings looked at each other, extremely fearful of the Corpse Emperor needle. Pearl's eyes flickered slightly. "What do you mean by asking us to stand aside and watch?" The Corpse Emperor stared at Suyu and smiled slightly. "I have wanted to kill someone for too long." Pearl was awestruck. She stood in front of Suyu and snorted. "Fellow Corpse Kings, don't be fooled. Have you forgotten that the Moon Empress threatened you to hand over the corpse souls after she mistakenly thought that I was dead? The Corpse Emperor may let you go, but what about the Moon Empress? Don't forget how she treated her compatriots who owed her in the past." The Corpse Kings, who were shaken, immediately became alert. Yes, it was still uncertain whether the Corpse Emperor could fulfill his promise and not care about this matter. But the Moon Empress, recalling her nature, which was even more ferocious than the Corpse Clan, when they attacked the Starry Pavilion General Pavilion, several Corpse Kings shuddered. "Don't think about getting lucky. Today, either he dies or we die." Pearl growled and took the lead to attack. The 8 Corpse Kings followed without hesitation and chose to fight recklessly. The Corpse Emperor sighed and looked back at the pale and trembling Lanyu. Surprisingly, he did not blame her. Instead, his eyes were gentle. Don't worry." He suddenly clenched the Corpse Emperor needle, and the 9 Corpse Emperors who attacked immediately felt pain as if they were being torn apart. Pearl was slightly better off. After all, she had been awake for many years, and her corpse soul was far stronger than ordinary corpse kings. But the rest of the corpse kings could not. All of them had a splitting headache, and they screamed with their heads in their hands. In such a state, not to mention 20% of their power, they might not even be able to exert 10% of their power. On the other hand, the corpse emperor was at his peak. With a smile at the corner of his mouth, he took a step forward and slapped the corpse king with his huge white palm. Pearl shouted anxiously, "Pull yourself together." She forced herself to pull herself together, and with the help of the Great Path Law, a piece of ice law descended. A chain of law that was completely covered in ice lashed out from the air. However, the corpse emperor casually waved his robe, and an even more powerful Great Path Law descended, smashing Pearl's law into pieces. With a muffled groan, Pearl's figure retreated until she was in front of Suyu. She said in a serious voice, "This is not good. I can only exert 50% of my power at most, and the rest of the corpse kings have less than 10%. They are no match for the corpse emperor. You go first, and we will cover you." "Haha, no one can leave." The corpse emperor clenched the corpse emperor needle in one hand, and with the other, he performed a seal, manipulating the Great Path Law to bombard them. All the corpse kings in the field were blown away. A piece of the remaining chain of law whipped toward Suyu. Pearl gritted her teeth and continued to mobilize the chain of law to resist. Pop! Her chain of law was instantly smashed, and with another muffled groan, divine blood flew out of her mouth. "Go quickly," Pearl urged, but there was no movement behind her. Looking back, she saw Suyu holding a silver fruit in his left hand and the royal dragon sword in his right hand. At this moment, he was operating the royal dragon sword with difficulty. When he finished, he shouted, "Get out of the way!" Pearl dodged subconsciously, and the royal dragon sword finally slid down. It was as if the sky and earth were being split apart, and the light swept across the dark universe. The corpse emperor didn't even have time to react, and the dragon-shaped sword energy pierced through his body. On his chest, a second dragon-shaped sword scar was left. It was bright as blood and extremely eye-catching, as if a blood dragon had been embedded in his body. Cough, cough. The corpse emperor was forced back a few steps by the sword energy, and he coughed heavily, spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood. Looking down at the wound on his chest, the corpse emperor grinned. "Good. You've hurt me again. Moreover, the power of this sword is much stronger than before. If I hadn't reached the peak of the One Crown King, I'm afraid I wouldn't have survived." The way he looked at Suyu became colder and colder. "Is that all?" The corpse emperor's murderous intent intensified. "Then say goodbye." Suyu's heart sank. The royal dragon sword was his most powerful trump card. The fruit of the heavenly orchid silver bamboo could only save his life. Moreover, it could only protect a few corpse kings while they escaped. Looking at the corpse emperor's sneer, Suyu secretly held Pearl's shoulder. The plan had failed. However, at that moment, Suyu suddenly felt his arm burning. The turquoise 9-jade spiritual pearl was golden. Suyu's heart moved, and he opened the 9-jade spiritual pearl. Immediately, a crystal-clear divine light rushed out. In the divine light, there was a divine sword that Suyu was unfamiliar with. It was transparent and flawless, like a golden jade sword. Where did this sword come from? Suyu felt both strange and familiar at the same time. However, Pearl's shoulder, which he was holding, trembled violently, and she shook off Suyu's palm. Pearl was like a cat that had been scalded by fire. She instinctively fled 1,000 feet away and looked back in horror. Boundless karmic flames. Husband, you actually have such a terrible thing? Boundless karmic flames? Suyu suddenly remembered that he had let the golden flames forbidden wood sword absorb the destiny of the nation. As a result, a mutation occurred. The golden flames forbidden wood sword gave birth to a natural fusion of golden thunder and fire. Could this be the golden flames forbidden wood sword? Suyu was a little dumbfounded. However, he keenly noticed that the corpse emperor's footsteps came to an abrupt halt, and his playful and indifferent eyes began to fluctuate violently. Chapter 1759. Suyu's mind was spinning rapidly. The golden flames forbidden would had always been a supreme divine wood that could ward off evil. The boundless karmic flame that was born after the mutation was a natural enemy that made evil spirits tremble in fear. Could it be that even the corpse emperor was afraid of the boundless karmic flames? Suyu could not believe it, but he had no other way out. Clenching his teeth, Suyu held the golden jade sword in his hand and slashed at the corpse emperor from above. Roar! 2 roars came from the gold jade sword. It sounded like the heavenly court's exhaustion and the earth's flame. A vast expanse of golden lightning and fire wrapped around the 2 chains of laws surged forward. Like a tsunami, it instantly annihilated the corpse monarch and Lan Yu. Miraculously, Lan Yu was safe and sound in the boundless karmic flames. She only used her god power to protect her body out of discomfort. However, the corpse monarch seemed to have fallen into a pot of boiling oil. He roared in pain, and his entire body continued to evaporate the dense corpse aura. He began to melt at a speed visible to the naked eye from top to bottom. This lightning fire was the bane of evil spirits. Suyu could not believe it. Isn't the restraining effect of the golden, boundless karmic flames unbelievably powerful? Fear appeared in Zhu eyes, but she heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the corpse monarch being swallowed by the thunderfire. The other corpse kings regained their senses after losing the threat of the corpse emperor needle. Leave quickly. Amidst the lightning and fire, the corpse emperor pulled out his own bloody spine. The words corpse emperor by Qi were also engraved on his spine. Corpse king whip. He grabbed his spine and lashed out. A mysterious divine light appeared in his spine and enveloped him and Lan Yu. Immediately after, the divine light retracted and swept the 2 of them into the spine. With a puff, his spine turned into a stream of light and shot out of the thunderfire. Zhu expression changed. After him, leaving behind 2 corpse kings to clean up the battlefield, she and the other corpse kings rushed to catch up. Hoochie! Looking around, the corpse clan's palace, which was originally dazzling in gold and jade, was now in a state of desolation. Not a single palace was intact. The terrifying power of laws lingered in the sky, as well as the lingering dragon might and golden thunderfire. Suyu immediately entered the 9 jade spiritual pearl and dashed toward the cottage. Little Kylan. Suyu was quite anxious. Apart from little Kylan, there shouldn't be anyone else who would throw out the golden jade sword at such a crucial moment. But there was no one there. The little Kylan was nowhere to be seen. When Suyu swept the space with his mind, his face stiffened. He couldn't detect the small Kylan's existence. How could this be? Could it be that the little Kylan had left the 9 jade spiritual pearl? All of a sudden, Suyu's vision darkened, as if something had covered his eyes. Guess who I am? A clear and sweet voice resounded in his ears. Suyu's heart skipped a beat, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Little Kylan. No. Suyu was startled, and after thinking for a moment, he asked, Little Qi? No. Little Lin? Also not. Suyu pried open the hooves covering his face and asked with a smile, Then, what should I call you? Lord Qilin Sovereign. Suyu's face stiffened. Emperor Qilin? If no one had deliberately brought it up, he would have almost forgotten that there was still a missing emperor among the 9 Dragons Valley's 9 Heavens God Realm. The Qilin Sovereign. In the reversal of time, Suyu had seen the Qilin Sovereign being hunted down by the sinful lady. And this sovereign was the only one of the 9 great sovereigns who was still alive. But his whereabouts were unknown. Turning his head, it was still the little pink Kylan. Its appearance was petite and adorable, but its eyes were no longer as innocent as they used to be. Instead, they were full of vicissitudes and wisdom. At this moment, it looked at Suyu's eyes with a faint smile. Why, my human pet, with your intelligence, you should have guessed that I am different, right? The little Kylan jumped down and raised its neck. Human pet? The blue veins on Suyu's forehead twitched, and he laughed a little angrily. You become a master after waking up? But as it said, Suyu didn't feel surprised at all. Instead, he felt that everything was logical. a mysterious Kylan that was born to make elixirs and weapons, and had an infinite heritage. If he made a bold assumption, it would be easy to link it to the missing Emperor Qilin. You change a lot. Was it because you were hunted down by the sinful lady? Suyu teased. The little Kylan was shocked and looked up at Suyu in surprise. Oh my god, you know about the sinful lady? No. How did you know that the sinful lady hunted me down? Suyu spread out his hands. I won't tell you. If you don't want to say it, then forget it. The little Kylan sat on the ground, its two front hooves crossed in front of its chest, and turned its head, looking angry. Suyu smiled and touched its head. I am very happy that you have woken up. Whether you are the Emperor Qilin or the little Kylan, you are one of the few relatives I have left. The little Kylan still turned its head, but its expression was very shy. It muttered, in fact, strictly speaking, I am not the Emperor Qilin. With the strength of the sinful lady, she can kill us sovereigns in a snap of her fingers. Even the strongest world annihilation emperor died tragically, let alone me. The little Kylan said, in fact, I have already been killed, but I have learned a nirvana technique from the Phoenix clan, and I know a little bit of the divine technique of resurrection. Just before the sinful lady and the demonic dragon came, I cultivated a clone. If the Emperor Qilin dies, the clone will begin nirvana and inherit everything of the Emperor Qilin. If nothing goes wrong, when the Emperor Qilin dies, I will slowly awaken and become the new Emperor Qilin. In other words, it was the clone of the Emperor Qilin, but it had its own consciousness. Suyu stroked its head comfortingly. Don't worry, we have already left the ancient god realm of 9 dragons. The sinful lady is sealed in the Tao Tai cage, and it is impossible for her to come back. The little Kylan suddenly got up from the ground and stared at Suyu solemnly. I almost forgot. I want to talk about the sinful lady. Thump! Suyu's heart skipped a beat. For some reason, Suyu felt that it was not a good thing. Have you been in contact with the sinful lady recently? The little Kylan asked seriously. Suyu was horrified. Just thinking about the horror of the sinful lady made Suyu feel uneasy. He said, I told you, the sinful lady is trapped and can never come out. Then why did I sense the breath of the sinful lady a few days ago? Hiss! Even with Suyu's calmness, he could not help but gasp. Did the sinful lady come out? No, it could not be her. If she really came out, the first thing the sinful lady would do would be to find Suyu and kill him, right? Suyu did not think that the sinful lady would need a few days to find him. A single thought was enough. But what was with the sinful lady's breath? Are you sure? Suyu asked doubtfully. The little Kylan nodded. When the sinful lady killed my real body, she branded her unique breath in my soul, so I can't be wrong. That was strange. No matter what the truth was, Suyu was very cautious. Chapter 1760. It seemed that after dealing with the matters of the Sea of Constellations, he must leave immediately, without delay. Intuition told Suyu that the appearance of the sinful lady's breath was most likely related to him. Then where are you going? Suyu looked into the eyes of the little Kylan. Now, it had completely inherited the legacy of the Kylan divine warrior and became the new generation of the divine warrior of heaven and earth. How could it still submit to Suyu's name and continue to be a spiritual pet? The little Kylan scratched its pink ears. I'm also very distressed. Should I accept you as a human pet or as a mount? Ah, it is really difficult. Get lost. Hey, do you have any idea? How dare you talk to the divine warrior of heaven and earth like this? Believe it or not, I will blow you away with a sneeze. Royal Dragon Sword. Wow, are you serious? When Suyu left the 9 Jade spiritual pearl, there was a harmless little Kylan the size of a palm on his shoulder. Its round eyes stared angrily at Suyu's face. Bastard, even after inheriting the Kylan divine warrior, I still can't beat you. How infuriating. On its forehead, there was a weak sword mark in the shape of a dragon. Suyu smiled. How could a royal dragon sword defeat the divine warrior of heaven and earth? It was just deliberately giving itself a reason to continue to stay by Suyu's side. One man and one pet had a tacit understanding. Swish. At the same time as the soul returned to the body, the corpse kings returned one after another. The Pearl Corpse King was dejected. He ran away. The Corpse Queen whip was custom-made for the Corpse Emperor. As a means of escape, its speed was naturally far faster than ordinary artifacts. She did not catch up. Although Suyu felt it was a pity, he was not too surprised. Anyway, the plan has finally taken a step forward. Suyu thought, the injuries caused by the boundless karma flame to the Corpse Emperor will not be able to recover in a short time, so he has no time to come and cause trouble. The Pearl Corpse King breathed a sigh of relief. Then, the rest is up to you. Suyu's eyes were profound as he nodded slowly. Pearl Corpse King, we caught the escaping bone painting Corpse King. 3 Corpse Kings rushed over with the bone painting Corpse King in hand. The painting bones Corpse King had always been a trusted aide of the Corpse Emperor. During this coup, the 9 Corpse Emperors had specially concealed it from him. It was not until the coup that the bone-painting Corpse King woke up from a dream and wanted to escape and follow the Corpse Emperor. However, as soon as he left, he was intercepted by the Corpse Kings who were already prepared. What should we do? Kill or... A few Corpse Kings didn't have a good expression on their faces towards the bone-painting Corpse King. He had helped Lan Yu force them to hand over the spirits of the dead. Zhu Ji's eyes wandered as she turned to look at Suyu. Husband, do you have any suggestions? It's useless to keep him alive, but it's a pity to kill him. Suyu gave a brief evaluation. Lock him up first. Suddenly, Suyu said, let's search their bodies first. A few Corpse Kings laughed sinisterly and cleanly searched him from head to toe. With a clatter, all sorts of objects fell to the ground. One of the items caught everyone's attention. A golden coffin. What a guy. He even stole the Corpse Emperor's golden coffin. A Corpse King joked. During the battle between the two sides, the painting Bone Corpse King must have taken advantage of the chaos to steal the overturned golden coffin. Could it be that you're uncomfortable sleeping in the bronze coffin and want to try the taste of the Corpse Emperor's golden coffin? A few Corpse Kings gathered around and laughed. The Corpse King painting Bones bowed and nodded, smiling awkwardly. However, there was a hint of nervousness in the depths of his eyes. Sadly, he was standing next to Suyu, who was the best at observation. Check the golden coffin, Suyu said lightly. The painting Bone Corpse King's face turned pale in an instant. His 2 sunken eyes stared at the golden coffin without blinking. Several Corpse Kings noticed the change in his expression and immediately examined the golden coffin carefully. There are mysteries hidden inside the golden coffin. Zhu Ji came over to take a look and saw a layer of hidden text at the bottom of the golden coffin. Her beautiful eyes stared at it, and Zhu Ji was surprised. What kind of text is this? Why haven't I seen it before? The curvy words on it looked like small swords at first glance, and there was a hint of threatening sword chi in them. The words were not like the common language of the Corpse Clan at all. Several Corpse Kings came over one after another. Strange. I've never seen anything like this before. How could there be these strange, sword-shaped words in the Corpse Emperor's golden coffin? What do these words mean? What did the Corpse Emperor want to say? Everyone was discussing it, but they couldn't figure it out. It's the ancient words of the Heavenly Sword Clan. Suyu walked over and looked at it silently for a long time. Zhu Ji said in surprise, the Corpse Emperor was indeed a member of the Heavenly Sword Clan of the third-rate race when he was alive. I know that, but what about the ancient words? The words of any race will continue to advance with the times. Some ancient and rare words will gradually be introduced into the language, and they are called ancient words, Suyu said. This Corpse Emperor can master the ancient words of the Heavenly Sword Clan. It must have existed for a very long time. All the Corpse Clan members suddenly awakened after death. No one knew how long they had been dead before they were resurrected except for Heaven, who had created the Corpse Clan. What do these ancient words of the Heavenly Sword Clan say? Zhu Ji asked. Suyu's lips curled into a smile. It's a spell to open a secret space of the Corpse Emperor. With a smile, Suyu softly recited the ancient words left behind. Creak, creak. A strange phenomenon suddenly appeared at the bottom of the golden coffin. It began to split into 2 from the middle, slowly separating to the sides. A secret space was revealed. It can shield our senses? The Corpse Kings who were watching were shocked. The realm of the Corpse Kings was equivalent to that of the divine warriors of heaven and earth. Their senses were unimaginably powerful. The Corpse Emperor had set up such a secret space to hide from their senses. It was obvious that he had put in a lot of effort. The secret space used space divine techniques. It looked thin on the outside, but it was 10 feet thick and 30 feet long. There's a Corpse Emperor in there. When they saw what was in the space, the expressions of the Corpse Kings changed dramatically. Upon closer inspection, there was indeed a corpse at the bottom of the golden coffin. It looked exactly like the Corpse Emperor. Quiet. This is just an empty shell. There's no corpse soul. Zhu Ji calmed the group of corpses. Looking at the corpse carefully, Zhu Ji couldn't help but laugh. Could this be the spare body that the Corpse Emperor is preparing to restore to the Double Crown Emperor? The Corpse Emperor's current body can't withstand the recovery of his cultivation in a short period of time. He must go through a body swap. This body must be prepared for the breakthrough. Zhu Ji chuckled. I think this body, like the Corpse Emperor Needle and the Corpse Emperor Whip, was born with the Corpse Emperor. I didn't expect that he would be defeated so suddenly. In his haste to escape, he didn't have time to take away the spare body in the golden coffin. The Corpse Kings present breathed a sigh of relief. In that case, they had inadvertently slowed down the process of the Corpse Emperor's recovery. Zhu Ji raised her hand. Burn this corpse to get rid of any worries. This corpse was of no use to the Corpse Kings. Wait, can you let me deal with the corpse? Su Yu asked. Zhu Ji was surprised. My husband is interested in this corpse? That's hard to say. Just take it. The rest of the Corpse Kings had no objections. Since it was discovered by Su Yu, the Corpse King, we naturally have no objection to him handling it himself. Thus, Su Yu easily obtained the complete body of the Corpse Emperor. At the end of the East Sea in the Sea of Constellations, the Corpse Emperor's face was pale. With the help of Lan Yu, he lay on his back on a meteorite. Is the Corpse King painting bones not here yet? The Corpse Emperor asked with difficulty. His whole body was still burning with the golden thunder fire that had not been extinguished, continuing to destroy his body. Lan Yu shook her head, her eyes sad. It was not easy for her to become the queen of the Corpse Clan, but because of Su Yu's arrival, it collapsed in an instant. Su Yu, are you really the nemesis of me, Lan Yu? Her face, which should have been delicate and beautiful, was now filled with hostility. The Corpse Emperor gazed at her affectionately and said, My queen, don't worry. As long as I'm not dead, it is only a matter of time before I make a comeback. Now let's go. Lan Yu restrained her sadness and said, What about the Corpse King painting bones? The Corpse Emperor shook his head. There is no need to wait. He will not come back. They drove the meteorite into the vast darkness and silence. Not long after they left the constellation Sea, 3 fast-moving stars, like shooting stars, descended into the constellation Sea. Is this the civilization of the constellation Sea? A young man in a haughty outfit stood proudly, looking around the constellation Sea, unable to hide the contempt in his eyes. Beside him was an old man in a gray robe, his face full of wrinkles. His eyes were sharp and full of vigor as he looked at the civilization of the constellation Sea. He said, A mere barbaric civilization has given birth to peerless geniuses like Su Yu and Ziwei, stunning the land of North Enshu. How surprising. They were none other than the Pear King and Ao Xiang, one of the 9 Xiangs of Bei Wangchun, who had come to retrieve the North Enshu King Cauldron. Humph! Ao Xiang snorted coldly. Ziwei is barely a genius. But as for that, Su Yu, I will have to test it myself. A pretty lady in a green robe said calmly. I also don't believe that a little martial artist from a barbaric civilization could defeat second brother, Ao Xiang. The Pear King sighed. Zhu I didn't expect you to come. There are not many people who could be addressed so warmly by the previous North Enshu king, apart from the people of North Enshu. Even with Ao Xiang, Bei Wangchun cast a rare kind look at the young lady. Seventh sister, are you here to fight for justice for me? North Wangzhu, the 7th daughter of the current North Enshu king, was known as the 7th princess. North Wangzhu nodded, her eyes filled with longing. I don't believe that anyone's talent is above second brother's. Absolutely not. Then let's go and have a look. Bei Wanchen laughed. Su Yu, who had no idea what was going on, was fiddling with the corpse in the secret room. How could he forget the secret of the Corpse King that Mu Songhai had told him? Back then, he had cut off a finger bone from the emperor's corpse, and it had turned into a grayish-black stone. With the help of the stone, Su Yu's comprehension of cultivation techniques had a shocking effect of advancing by leaps and bounds. He was looking at the corpse of an entire Corpse King. With a thought, Su Yu took out the golden jade sword and cut off the corpse's arm. After leaving the body, the arm began to petrify, turning grayish-black. Su Yu was overjoyed. The Corpse Emperor has really left behind a rare treasure for me. Su Yu's eyes were filled with surprise. He cut off the entire corpse and let it turn into stone. Looking at so many grayish-black stones, Su Yu couldn't help but feel excited. Upper tier, a finger that had turned into a grayish-black stone had allowed Su Yu to touch the edge of the upper tier of the soul-devouring realm. What kind of effect would an entire body of stone have? Su Yu couldn't help but lick his lips. He couldn't wait to continue cultivating. Regrettably, he only had 2 days. 2 days it is then. Su Yu first mixed a portion of the grayish-black stone into a viscous liquid. Then he jumped into it and was baptized by the spiritual liquid. At the same time, he activated the time acceleration law, allowing time to accelerate by 500 times. Time was limited, so he focused all his energy on the 6th style of the demonic sword. On the basis of familiarizing himself with the 5th style, inspiration for the 6th style appeared. In a blur, Su Yu's consciousness seemed to see a majestic demonic figure holding a demonic sword, slashing toward the heavens. The vast heavens were like a shattered mirror, shattering layer by layer. An endless rain of blood poured down from the depths of the heavens, drowning the earth. Divine thunder rumbled, raging flames surged, and the existence in the unseen world let out a furious roar. It was as if the sword had injured the supreme heavens. Heaven, slashing. Sword, Su Yu murmured. The Azura, sword sitting cross-legged in front of him, couldn't stop buzzing. That was a sign that the sword style was about to be completed. It had to be said that the grayish-black stone had a miraculous effect on the comprehension of cultivation techniques. Su Yu, who hadn't even touched the surface, quickly found inspiration. Oh, this guy's strength is going to advance another level. The little Kylan on his shoulder lazily opened its eyes and muttered, "What a monster!" 2 days later, when the moon was full, a towering moon-white shadow of a sword rose from the depths of the palace and reached the heavens. In an instant, as if affected by the shadow of the sword, the surrounding divine power became chaotic, the earth trembled, and even the heavens changed color. The strange phenomenon alarmed the people of the Corpse Clan, and they all came out to watch. However, the shadow of the sword immediately disappeared, making it impossible to pinpoint the source. Su Yu put away the Azura sword and got up from the huge wooden barrel. The grayish-black spiritual liquid that was mixed was only a pool of clear water. What a domineering comprehension power. In just 2 days, the 6th style of the heaven-slashing sword has been successfully cultivated. It's incredible. Su Yu felt refreshed. The black-gray stone consumed this time was only 1/10 of the original. If he was given enough time, he was confident that he could finish comprehending all 9 styles of the demonic sword in one go. However, there wasn't enough time. "Husband, it's almost time." Outside the secret room, Zhu Ji was drinking to the moon and reminding him. She didn't agree with Su Yu's approach. Su Yu had never owed anything to the Constellation Sea, but the Constellation Sea didn't even have the most basic trust. They could turn against Su Yu with a single thought and treat him as a traitor that everyone should kill. Was it necessary to spend so much effort and energy to save such a civilization? However, Zhu Ji smiled. Wasn't this the reason why she fell in love with him? If Su Yu was a selfish person, he wouldn't turn back for her, and he wouldn't abandon the world for her. The stone door opened, and Su Yu walked out, a little tired. Zhu Ji came up to him and helped him sit down. She leaned on his shoulder and said, "No matter who is your enemy, I will stand by your side. Even if the whole world is your enemy, my enemy will be the whole world." Suyu's heart was deeply moved by her straightforward words that came from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 1761. Time passed quietly like water. As the sun rose from the horizon, Suyu sat quietly in the frost for the whole night. "It has begun." Suyu raised his head and looked at the sky. At that moment, the sound of horns echoed in his ears. The dispute that had lasted for 2 years was finally going to come to an end with a decisive battle. The sky above the castle was filled with experts. The lowest was a bronze overlord, and the highest was a divine warrior of heaven and earth. On the corpse race's side, a total of 9 corpse kings stood side by side. Zhuji was in the middle, and Suyu was beside her. The two armies faced each other from afar. The Living Spirits Alliance discovered Suyu at the first moment, and all of them were filled with murderous intent. "Since we're all here, let's settle this once and for all," the female pavilion master said. The war drums behind him rumbled, igniting the hot blood of living beings. "The alliance of living beings' survival hinges on this," the other 2 pavilion venerables shouted at the same time. "Charge!" With a single order, the alliance of living beings dove down from the city walls with their backs to the wall. Zhuji took a deep breath. "Corpse race kill." The 2 torrents collided fiercely. In an instant, corpses were tossed into the air, splashing everywhere like ocean spray. "Suyu, you traitor, I will personally take your life." The woman in the lead was the cabinet senior. She shuttled through the crowd and headed straight for Suyu. "Pa!" A slender palm wrapped in the power of laws slapped the female pavilion venerable's chest, startling her back. "Your opponent is me." Zhuji stood up straight. The female pavilion venerable bellowed furiously, "Then I'll kill you first." The 2 divine sovereigns of heaven and earth quickly clashed, and the power of laws splashed out, sweeping away the surrounding creatures and corpse race. The other 2 pavilion sovereigns, Sovereign Purple Dream and Sovereign Snow Dragon, were also entangled by the other corpse kings. The battle between the 2 sides quickly entered a white-hot state. There were constantly corpse race beings being exterminated, but there were also more living beings dying and immediately turning into corpse race beings, counterattacking the living beings. Thus, after half a day of stalemate, the Life Alliance fell into a situation where they were forced to retreat step by step. The female pavilion venerable panted heavily. Seeing that the situation was deteriorating, she secretly felt hatred in her heart. She could not understand why the chief pavilion master would agree to a duel where he had no chance of winning. However, the general cabinet master could not be wrong. The one who was wrong was Suyu, who had given advice to the corpse clan. "Sovereign Purple Dream, hold back the pearl." The female pavilion supreme shouted as she blasted the pearl away with her palm. The Purple Dream sovereign nodded and quickly rushed over to stop Zhuji. She was the emperor of plants and was not afraid of corpse chi. Instead, she was more difficult to deal with than the female cabinet venerable. For a moment, she was on par with Zhuji. Now that she was free, the woman cabinet senior went straight to Suyu without saying a word. When the divine warriors of heaven and earth take action, it only takes a single thought. In an instant, he appeared before Suyu and slapped his palm on the top of his head. "Pucci!" Suyu's brain exploded, and he died on the spot. Zhuji glanced over and smiled, but she didn't rush over to help. The female pavilion senior was slightly stunned. It was too smooth. As the mastermind behind the scenes, he had no protection around him. What was even stranger was that Suyu did not resist at all. Based on her understanding of Suyu, he had many tricks up his sleeves, so he wouldn't be easily killed. Filled with suspicion, the female cabinet senior scrutinized Suyu carefully. Only then did she discover that the splattered brain of Suyu was emitting a dense corpse energy. Something's not right. The female pavilion master's heart skipped a beat. Suyu was a living creature and had not been transformed into the corpse clan. So, where did the corpse energy come from? After a closer look, she finally found something unusual. Suyu's face looked the same as his real self, but she could see the subtle traces of carving. Damn it, I've been tricked. Where's Suyu? The woman cabinet senior looked around. All she could see were the corpse clan and living creatures fighting together. Where did she find Suyu? If someone else had disappeared, the woman cabinet senior wouldn't have cared. But Suyu, for some reason, she had a strong sense of foreboding. Swoosh, she retreated decisively and shouted anxiously, "Everyone, be careful. Suyu has disappeared." Upon hearing that, the two cabinet senior, the Purple Dream Sovereign and the Snow Dragon Sovereign, became vigilant. It wouldn't have mattered much if others had disappeared, but Suyu had disappeared at such a critical juncture. He was most likely playing some tricks. Even the divine warriors of heaven and earth were troubled by Suyu's elusive schemes. They were secretly on guard. Suddenly, there was great panic in the city. The sound of crying and shouting was a mess. "Return to help," the woman cabinet senior shouted without hesitation. Several divine warriors of heaven and earth prepared to return to the city to help. Zhuji giggled. Corpse Kings worked together to hold them back and buy time for the Corpse King Suyu. Hee okay. Several Corpse Kings did their best to hold them back, regardless of consumption. At the same time, under their command, the group of corpses also fought back madly, making it impossible for the Alliance of Life to get away. Damn Suyu. He really was tricking us. The woman cabinet senior roared. The other cabinet senior were also extremely angry. I knew I shouldn't have trusted Suyu, the traitor. However, they were helpless and could only listen as the civil strife in the city gradually subsided. Without deliberately looking, they could imagine the scene in the city. The group of old, weak women and children who were left behind had most likely become food for the Corpse Clan, or had been cruelly killed by them and turned into the Corpse Clan. The woman cabinet senior was full of grief and indignation. Alliance of Life died together with the Corpse Clan. Knowing that the city had been occupied by the Corpse Clan and that all their relatives and friends had died, the creatures' eyes were full of determination, and they rushed forward without any regard for their lives, like moths flying into a flame, seeking their own destruction. Zhuji smiled. Haha, such a great battle is really unexpected. Corpse Clan, listen to my order, all retreat. What? The Alliance of Life, which was pouncing forward like a fierce tiger, could hardly believe their ears. The ferocious Corpse Clan, which had an absolute advantage, was retreating? Walala! The black mass of the Corpse Clan retreated like a tide, and the Corpse Emperors who were entangled with the divine warriors of heaven and earth also retreated. The three Cabinet Senior, the Purple Dream Divine Warrior, and the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior were all stunned. But no matter what, since the Corpse Clan had retreated, they had a chance to breathe again. Go back to the city to help, the woman Cabinet Senior said solemnly. There was dead silence in the city. What awaited them was no longer their former companions, but countless Corpse Clan members. A group of people flew over the city wall and looked inside with grief and indignation. However, the scene in front of them petrified them on the spot. All of the creatures were intact, but they were surrounded by the Corpse Clan and did not dare to make a sound. In the central square of the castle, Suyu leaned lazily on the armchair and muttered, "Next!" A weak creature who had lined up stepped forward and was enveloped by the corpse energy spat out by a Corpse Clan member. After a few breaths, the creature walked out of the corpse energy again, scratching its head blankly. It was unscathed. Look, it's the same on the battlefield. Everyone looked back and saw that the Corpse Clan had brought the corpses of the creatures back, spitting corpse energy on them, and then sucking them out. The creatures who had died were resurrected and restored to their original state. The scene that had subverted their understanding and thinking stunned the Alliance of Life. What the hell was going on? The woman Cabinet Senior stared at Suyu with murderous intent. This traitor is definitely up to no good. Let's take this opportunity to kill him. Whoosh! She arrived in front of Suyu in an instant. Without saying a word, she slapped his head with her palm and said fiercely, "Die!" Pow! With a muffled sound, the woman Cabinet Senior was blocked by some kind of force. Yao Ji, don't be impulsive. The woman Cabinet Senior's eyes blurred, and a mass of black and white energies of yin and yang appeared. It was the Chief Pavilion Master. Chief Pavilion Master, Why are you doing this for this traitor? Yao Ji asked anxiously. Now was the best time to kill Su Yu. The old voice said, will the traitor stay in your house and wait for you to come back and take his life? But the woman cabinet senior was in a dilemma. The chief pavilion master's tone was slightly dignified. Yao Ji, when I was in seclusion, I specially asked you to take charge of the overall situation, but your performance disappointed me. You are only suitable for training, not leadership. Under the command of the chief pavilion master, Yao Ji's performance was moderate. Once she took charge of the overall situation, all kinds of weaknesses were exposed. For example, she was not thoughtful and easily angered, and so on. Yao Ji was not convinced, so he shut his mouth and stared at Su Yu coldly. The chief pavilion master walked onto the square with his hands behind his back, sat calmly opposite Su Yu, and said, I knew you had another reason for seeking refuge with the Corpse Clan. Su Yu stood up, cupped his fists, and bowed. I am indebted to the chief pavilion master's trust, so this matter could succeed. If Huangfu Liang had not agreed to the decisive battle, how could Su Yu have succeeded in luring the tiger away from the mountain and occupied the city? The chief pavilion master carefully examined the living beings, who were shrouded by the corpse energy, and his eyes shone with a shrewd light. They seemed to be missing something from their bodies. It's the fire seed. Su Yu smiled. The chief pavilion master was slightly startled. What is the fire seed? This question was exactly what Su Yu wanted to explain. After 2 hours, the whole place was silent. Even the chief pavilion master fell into a strange silence. The Purple Dream Divine Warrior said in disbelief, What you mean is that the Corpse Clan only wants the fire seed that we are born with, and not our lives. If that was the case, wouldn't their 30,000 years of fighting with the Corpse Clan be a joke? Su Yu pouted his lips at the living beings who had just lost their fire seed. Didn't you see it with your own eyes? The Purple Dream Divine Warrior felt that her brain was not working properly. If that's the case, why didn't the Corpse Clan discuss it with us? Why did they attack and kill us as soon as they appeared? It would be strange if we didn't resist until the end. Su Yu laughed in surprise. This was exactly the same question he had at that time. When Su Yu explained the stakes, the Purple Dream Divine Warrior laughed bitterly. I see. Without someone to mediate between us, it is indeed a dead end. Without Su Yu to mediate between them, could they trust each other? Her beautiful eyes fell on Su Yu. So, you betrayed the living beings on purpose? I did betray them. I am indebted to Zhuji, and I couldn't watch her be killed by you, Su Yu said calmly. Humph! The female pavilion master snorted coldly. Although the truth had been revealed, she did not believe Su Yu's explanation at all. That's just a one-sided statement. If that's the case, you could have just demonstrated the process of extracting the fire seed to the alliance of living beings. Why did you have to start this war? It was obviously you who had hidden evil intentions. Su Yu sneered. He didn't know if her betrayal had provoked her to make things difficult for him. Haha, if the alliance of living beings wasn't forced into a desperate situation, even if I demonstrated it 1,000 times or 10,000 times, you wouldn't believe me, Su Yu said calmly. Su Yu replied calmly, Only now, when you have no way out, will you listen to my explanation calmly. But even if you are in a desperate situation, there are still stubborn people like you who doubt me. Aren't there? The female pavilion master was furious. You, the Purple Dream Divine Warrior, and the other 2 pavilion masters tried to dissuade her. Indeed, as Su Yu had said, if they were not in a desperate situation, who would be willing to accept the Corpse Clan extracting the fire seed? What if the Corpse Clan was deceiving them? Even if there was a slim chance of survival, they would fight back with all their might. Therefore, this great battle was the only way to force them to sit down and listen to Su Yu's explanation. Chapter 1762. The woman narrowed her eyes. That's right. This was the most suspicious. There must be another plot behind the extraction of the fire seed. So you couldn't be bothered with him. Instead, he asked the general cabinet master, Do you think that a barbaric civilization in the Sea of Constellations can produce a corpse tribe capable of absorbing the fire seed? What about the other civilizations? Everyone was taken aback. Speaking of which, The corpse race wasn't born out of thin air. Instead, they rode ancient stars and passed through the void to arrive. They had never thought about whether or not the foreign civilizations had the corpse race. "You've seen him before?" the chief pavilion master asked solemnly. Suyu nodded. "Yes, I have. They're in the Beijing Wang Cauldron, and they belong to different corpse clans." Looking around at them, Suyu sighed and said, "So, do you understand why I must help the corpse clan absorb the fire seed in your bodies?" When the intelligent ones heard this, they immediately understood. The two pavilion venerables, the Purple Dream Sovereign and the Snow Dragon Sovereign, looked at each other. They all sighed and bowed to Suyu. Young Master Su's breadth of mind truly makes us feel ashamed. This was especially the case for the Purple Dream Divine King, who felt even more ashamed. In the past, she had trusted Suyu so much, but now she had doubted him. The chief pavilion master also stood up, cupped his fists, and bowed. "Brother Su's breadth of mind is just as I've seen it in the past. I'm extremely impressed." Only the female cabinet venerable remained stubborn. She frowned and said, "Why are you thanking him? Is a mere junior worthy of our sovereign realm experts bowing to him? You with the surname Su, aren't you ashamed to accept it?" "Yao Ji, after this, go into seclusion for 3,000 years to temper your mind," the chief pavilion master said lightly. Purple Dream Monarch explained helplessly. "Pavilion Master Yao Ji, have you ever thought that the fire seed in our bodies is still there? If another group of strange corpse race comes, will they still take away the fire seed gently like today? No, they will kill us first, then take away our tinder, and finally turn us into their slaves to conquer the next civilization. At that time, who will persuade the corpse race to take the fire seed in a friendly manner, not harming a single living creature? You or me?" Upon hearing that, the female pavilion venerable's expression turned grave. It was only then that she realized Suyu's intentions. He was doing this for the sake of the entire sea of constellation civilization. This matter had nothing to do with him, but he still put in so much effort to do it. Who possessed such a breadth of mind that cherished the common people? No wonder even the chief pavilion master bowed to him. However, even though he understood, Yao Ji could not swallow the resentment from that day. He snorted and said, "All of you speak up for him." He said, "I am." With that, he flicked his sleeves and left. The chief cabinet master said to Suyu apologetically, "Yao Ji is too engrossed in his training, so he doesn't have enough experience in dealing with people. So you didn't take it seriously. He's just a stubborn old antique." As the group conversed, they quickly extracted the fire seed. Half a day later, the extraction of the fire seed was complete. Su. Back then, he had been injured by the Emperor corpse, and the corpse energy lingered in his body, gradually turning him into a corpse. Venerable Su. Then it's all up to the corpse kings. The chief cabinet master looked at the 9 corpse kings standing side by side behind Suyu and sighed emotionally. He Su not. Of him he. Master. Of the pavilion master of the Su, I'm master. He. Of. You master. Of. The chief pavilion master nodded and began to refine the venom. A day later, the sky above the castle was dark. It was full of venom. The Pearl Corpse King exclaimed, "The venom of the Su is stronger than that of the 9 great corpse kings. Fortunately, it has been 30,000 years and it has weakened. Otherwise, it would be useless." After some effort, the corpse aura that had accumulated in the chief pavilion master's body for a long time was finally cleansed. "Ha! I never thought I would recover. My friends from the corpse clan, thank you." The chief pavilion master was overjoyed. He thought he would die after 300 years, but he was relieved of 30,000 years of bad luck. Zhu Ji smiled and said, "You should be thanking my husband. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have bothered to heal you." The chief pavilion master was not angry. He chuckled. "Yes, Suyu is my benefactor. My meeting at the ancient dream altar was the turning point of my fate." At the mention of the ancient dream altar, Suyu thought for a moment and took out a golden alms bowl that was emitting an amazing Buddha's light. As soon as this item appeared, the 9 corpse kings retreated in shock. Their bodies involuntarily emitted black venom as they screamed in horror. Zhuji looked pained. Husband, take it back. We can't take it anymore. Suyu was surprised. He had only taken it out, so how could it cause such great damage? He hurriedly put away the alms bowl, looking apologetic. The chief pavilion master was stunned. Is this the relic of the faceless Buddha? Suyu nodded. Yes. It has been suppressing the corpse emperor. When the corpse emperor was born, he wanted to take this away, but I got it first. Chief pavilion master, do you know what this is? The only thing that had not been solved was the alms bowl. The chief pavilion master was deep in thought. I think this is a legendary doctrine artifact. Doctrine artifact? Suyu felt the name was familiar. The chief pavilion master said, it is the artifact used by the Path Master. It is far superior to the real Emperor-level divine weapons that we know of. An artifact of a higher level than an Emperor-based Saint artifact? Suyu was shocked. The rest of the Corpse Kings also looked jealous. However, the Doctrine Artifact is very special. Apart from the owner of the Doctrine Artifact, no one else can use it. The Chief Pavilion Master said, because every Doctrine Artifact is refined by the Path Master from the Great Way of Heaven and Earth. Suyu was disappointed to hear such an answer. The Chief Pavilion Master laughed. Why are you disappointed? Even if you can't use it, the Doctrine Artifact's own attributes are superior to real Emperor-level divine weapons. For example, the Buddha's power of this alms bowl. With this thing protecting you, the Corpse King of the One Crown Emperor won't dare to approach you. Even the Corpse King of the Two Crown Emperor may not be able to do anything to you. This was barely a consolation. Since the Chief Pavilion Master is safe and sound, I will return to the Corpse Clan to make arrangements. In order to prevent a rift between the two sides, the Corpse Clan should leave the Sea of Constellations as soon as possible. The Chief Pavilion Master smiled. Thank you. The Chief Pavilion Master watched Suyu leave, but Suyu stood motionless and looked at him deeply. Chief Pavilion Master, I seem to have forgotten something. He was startled. After thinking carefully, he said, Are they Brother Su's two friends? It's very strange. I have ordered people to search the entire Sea of Constellations. The two people you mentioned are not there. Disappeared? Suyu's heart sank. Xia Jingyu and Shunga had left the ancient dream altar first. Why would they disappear? Could it be the Emperor's corpse? Zhuji asked. Suyu pondered. The Emperor's corpse was the most elusive of the three great corpse kings who had awakened. No one knew where the Emperor's corpse was. It was possible that it was done by him. Then I will think of another way, Suyu said. He had tried to revive the two of them, but it was ineffective. This meant that their lives were not in danger, so Suyu was not too worried. Then the mess in the Sea of Constellations will be handled by the Chief Pavilion Master, Suyu said. During the confrontation between the two clans, there had been many who were disloyal to the alliance of living beings. It was imperative to purge them. The Chief Pavilion Master's eyes darkened, and he nodded slightly. Don't worry, I will, but you have to be careful. There was a hidden meaning in his words. Suyu and the 9 Corpse Kings returned to the Corpse Clan's army. Now that we have the flame, let's leave the Sea of Constellations as soon as possible, Suyu suggested. Zhuji was surprised. Aren't you coming with us? Suyu shook his head. I am in trouble. It's better to stay away from you. Zhuji laughed. With the protection of the 9 Corpse Kings, what trouble can't be solved? Even 90 Corpse Kings can't protect me. Suyu smiled helplessly. Being targeted by the sinful lady, the divine warriors of heaven and earth couldn't solve the problem at all. Don't doubt my words, Suyu said. You go and settle the group of corpses. I want to be alone for a while. Zhuji wanted to say something, but stopped. She still listened to Suyu and left silently, leaving Suyu alone in the tent. The Sea of Constellations had been settled, and it was time for Suyu to leave. If the sinful lady arrived, it would be too late. Corpse King Suyu, I have something important to report. Suddenly, a corpse came in from outside the tent. Suyu said, Come in. An ordinary-looking corpse in broken armor walked in and said, Reporting to Suyu, Corpse King, we found some creatures whose fire seeds have not yet been extracted. Perhaps they're the remnants of the alliance of living beings. They're still eyeing us covetously. How should we deal with them? Suyu paced and said, Is that so? That's difficult. If we don't handle it properly, it will easily lead to misunderstandings and a war. After thinking about it, Suyu felt that the situation was serious and walked out of the tent. You wait here. I will summon the 9 corpse kings to discuss it. He walked to the entrance of the tent and passed by the corpse who reported. But at the moment when his shoulder passed by, Suyu's body stiffened and a strong sense of alarm rose in his heart. The long-lost feeling of facing death reverberated in Suyu's chest. Corpse King Suyu. The corpse who reported had an inscrutable expression, and even his tone became mysterious. You, who seized control of the corpse clan and planned such a great war, have to discuss such a small matter with the 9 corpse kings? Or have you guessed who I am and are in a hurry to escape? He put his hands behind his back and said slowly. Despite the constant warning signs in his heart, Suyu's expression was as calm as ever. With his back to him, he said, "No matter how sensitive your mind is, you can't escape the eyes of the Emperor corpse." The two turned around at the same time and faced each other at a close distance, less than 3 feet away from each other. Just now, the corpse was still humble, but in the blink of an eye, it became domineering. Looking at him, Suyu felt a terrible pressure. I should be the one to say that. The Emperor corpse said lightly, "Even if the pearl is in front of you, you may not recognize me. Your eyes are really unique." Suyu chuckled. It's not that my eyes are unique, but I happen to know a characteristic of the Emperor corpse. Oh, tell me about it. The Emperor corpse was calm, as if looking at a mouse before death. Suyu said leisurely, I have a friend who once cut off the index finger of the Emperor corpse 30,000 years ago, and your right index finger happens to be incomplete. Chapter 1763. The Emperor's corpse lowered his right hand from behind his back. Sure enough, his index finger was missing. One finger exposed me. I really didn't expect it. The Emperor's corpse laughed. Your friend from 30,000 years ago was the female pavilion master of the Star Pavilion, wasn't she? Suyu said lightly, it doesn't matter who she is. What's the point of showing up now? The war is over, and all the souls of the Constellation C civilization have been extracted. It doesn't matter whether you are here or not, Suyu said slowly. Haha, young man, you are still too naive, the Emperor's corpse said lightly. Who said the souls of the Constellation C civilization are worthless? Only by transforming them into the Corpse Clan can our Corpse Clan continue to grow and conquer more civilizations. Suyu slowly stepped back and said, the general trend is irreversible. You can't succeed in the Constellation C civilization. He secretly crushed a jade butterfly in his sleeve and sent a message. The message went directly to the Life Alliance and could inform Huangfu Liang instantly. The Emperor's corpse said with a smile, do you think only Zhuji has her own confidant? Bang! Suyu's heart skipped a beat. An ominous premonition shrouded his heart. Poof! The sound of annihilation came from behind. The message was destroyed by a strong man. Suyu's pupil shrank when he turned around. A creature with a dog's head leaned against the entrance of the tent with an evil smile and looked at Suyu. Young man, if you escape from the hands of the divine warriors of heaven and earth, you will be a laughingstock. Another divine warrior of heaven and earth? Suyu felt vaguely familiar. That breath was the corpse dog. Suyu suddenly remembered the corpse dog that appeared when he rescued Lan Yu and the others near the main pavilion of the Star Pavilion. Was this divine warrior of heaven and earth in the Constellation C at that time? Suyu's mind turned quickly, thinking of countermeasures. He had never faced 2 divine warriors of heaven and earth at the same time. In particular, one of them was the famous Emperor's corpse. In front of him, Suyu had no doubt that even if he was the divine warrior of heaven and earth, he would not be able to fight back. Suyu's eyes turned slightly, and he said in a low voice, you didn't just show up to kill me, did you? If he really wanted to kill Suyu, he would have killed Suyu the moment they met. To the Emperor's corpse, it would be a piece of cake. The Emperor corpse smiled. To be more precise, I came to kill you after learning that you chased away the corpse Emperor. However, after seeing your scheme, I began to cherish your talent. It would be a pity to kill you like this or turn you into a corpse race without intelligence. Suyu's heart moved slightly. Then, you want to become my slave? The Emperor Corpse clasped his hands behind his back and said, this king has never taken slaves. You are an exception. In his opinion, Suyu might be more valuable than a divine warrior of heaven and earth. Suyu's gaze shifted as he spread out his hands and said helplessly, it seems like I have no other choice. Haha, I like smart people like you. You can save this king a lot of saliva. The Emperor's corpse smiled faintly. He rubbed his right wrist and produced a pitch-black mud ball. He threw it to Suyu and said, swallow it. Suyu felt disgusted. The poison that he had imagined to control him as a slave did not appear. Instead, it was dirt that he had casually rubbed. How was he supposed to swallow it? Hee, human boy, you have to taste it seriously. The corpse-loving dog Emperor behind him laughed strangely. Every hair on the Emperor Corpse's body is full of essence. How many corpse race clansmen would fight to get their hands on such a pill? Don't despise it. Of course, for the corpse race, this is a great supplement. But for you, eat this great supplement pill, and you can be at ease as a slave. If you resist, even a little, you will suffer a fate worse than death. Don't doubt my words. It really is a fate worse than death. Even the divine warriors of heaven and earth can't bear this kind of pain. Suyu grinned. Great supplement pill. Eat it, the Emperor Corpse said calmly. Suyu pinched it with 2 fingers and slowly brought it to his mouth. Under the gaze of 2 divine warriors of heaven and earth, Suyu had no chance to play tricks. However, it was also because of this that they were very relaxed. In front of the double-crowned divine warriors, even the divine warriors of heaven and earth had no chance of turning the tables. What could a mere golden overlord do? Just as Suyu was about to bring the great supplement pill to his mouth, suddenly, a green light flashed on Suyu's arm. Then, a shining golden alms bowl appeared out of nowhere. The alms bowl released a magnificent Buddha's light. The Emperor Corpse was only 30 feet away, and he was caught off guard by the Buddha's light. In an instant, the Emperor Corpse's body was full of corpse energy, emitting incomparably thick smoke. In shock and anger, he was forced out of the tent by the Buddha's light. This is the Soundless Buddha's doctrine artifact. How did it fall into your hands? The Emperor Corpse roared in shock. It seemed that the Emperor Corpse and the Corpse Emperor were not completely united. At least the Corpse Emperor had concealed the truth that Suyu had obtained the doctrine artifact. As a result, the Emperor Corpse had suffered a loss. Corpse Emperor, what are you waiting for? Kill him, don't hold back. The Emperor Corpse roared. The Buddha's light had a restraining effect on the corpse race, but it had little effect on other creatures. The Corpse Emperor was stunned for a moment before coming to his senses. He sneered coldly. I gave you a chance to live, but you insist on seeking death. He flicked out a hand, shaped like a black dog's paw, carrying the faintly discernible power of law, and tore straight at Suyu's back. In an instant, Suyu suddenly felt a burning pain coming from his back. This was the result of the claw not having reached him yet. If the claw had hit him, no matter how powerful he was, he would not have been able to reverse the situation. Suyu was prepared. As he took out the Buddhist doctrine artifact, he stabbed back with his sword. Royal Power Dragon, Sovereign Sword. The cold dragon's might turned into the shadow of a dragon as it charged behind him. The Corpse Emperor froze, retracting his claw and coldly snorting. I didn't expect you to hide such a great treasure. It's a pity that you've met me. His body suddenly split into pieces, turning into lumps of flesh that spread out. The dragon-shaped sword energy sliced through most of the lumps of flesh, but only one managed to avoid it. This lump of flesh immediately regenerated into the Corpse Emperor. Its cultivation and aura did not weaken in the slightest. So you had never heard of such a method of avoiding a powerful attack. Human brat die. The Corpse Emperor took advantage of Suyu's missed attack to attack with a sudden claw. This time, Suyu could not avoid it. Little Kylan, what are you waiting for? Suyu grumpily shouted at the last moment. The little Kylan lay on Suyu's shoulder, stretching lazily. It's finally my turn to fight. Shaking its body, the little Kylan looked at the Corpse Emperor with a face full of disdain. Hey, It took a step forward, facing the opponent's claw without fear. Even more strangely, it did not use any divine techniques, allowing the claw to injure it. Puff! The scene of the little Kylan being sent flying or pierced by the claw did not occur. Instead, the little Kylan was like nothing, and the corpse emperor's claw pierced right through it. What kind of rule is this? The corpse emperor was shocked. The little Kylan snorted. This is my unique slap-your-face rule. The seemingly weak hoof landed on the corpse emperor's face, but it exploded with great power. The corpse emperor's entire head was smashed into pieces. Its body was slammed into the ground tens of thousands of feet deep. Even the lava was squeezed out by the great force, forming a crimson fountain. So you clicked his tongue. This was the little Kylan's true power, a rule that could turn nothingness into reality. Anyone who saw it would have a headache. Let's go. After defeating the corpse emperor, Suyu dashed out of the tent, heading straight for the Life Alliance's castle. Where do you think you're going? The terrifying roar came crashing over like a tsunami. Suyu's body shuddered, and the divine energy in his body trembled, almost collapsing. Suyu gripped the alms bowl tightly, alleviating the strange feeling in his body. Whoosh! The emperor's corpse attacked like a shadow, but stopped 10,000 feet away, not daring to get too close. It was obvious that it was extremely afraid of the Buddha's light. If it were forced to get close, it would be very harmful to it. Roaring corpse mountains and rivers. The emperor's corpse roared into the sky, and the terrifying sound wave rule came crashing down. Suyu's expression changed slightly. Fortunately, the Buddha's light was a natural enemy to the corpse clan. Even the divine technique of the double-crowned emperor could not penetrate the Buddha's light. Suyu breathed a sigh of relief. It's not a good time to get entangled. He grabbed the solemn-faced little Kylan and left quickly. The emperor's corpse's face was calm. It opened its mouth and spat out a three-colored bone sword. Great destruction, corpse sword. The emperor's corpse was enraged. It held the bone sword and slashed at Suyu from afar. At this moment, Suyu's heart was beating wildly. The sense of crisis of life and death was like an alarm bell ringing in Suyu's heart. It could not be stopped. The Buddha's light could not stop this sword. Suyu threw the little Kylan behind him and took out the heavenly orchid silver bamboo fruit without thinking. Poof! Almost at this moment, the Buddha's light was split open. The remaining sword energy went straight to Suyu. The heavenly orchid silver bamboo fruit immediately swallowed up all the sword energy. However, the powerful impact of the sword energy still sent Suyu flying. There was a fishy sweetness in his throat. Die! As he flew backward, the emperor's corpse waved the second sword without hesitation. The same powerful sword energy followed closely after the first sword. The Buddha's light had not yet recovered, and the sword energy came slashing down. The heavenly orchid silver bamboo fruit was not enough to completely block it. With this sword, he would definitely die. There was no way around it. A double-crowned emperor and a single-crowned emperor were two completely different levels of existence. Great light technique. At this moment, a clear shout, full of the righteousness of heaven and earth, came slashing down like a sharp sword. At the same time, the sky and earth were covered with golden sunlight. Under the illumination of the light, all evil spirits evaporated. The emperor's sword was the same, melting rapidly under the illumination of the golden light. The emperor's corpse suddenly looked up and said, Huang Fu Liang. Back then, it was Huang Fu Liang who purified the corpse army with the supreme divine technique, the great light technique that ruined their attack plan. Swish! A brilliant golden light descended, and Huang Fu Liang's figure was vaguely visible inside. Emperor's corpse, how have you been? The emperor's corpse's pupils shrank slightly. Your injuries have healed. Haha, do you want to try? Huang Fu Liang asked with a faint smile. The two of them looked at each other, and sparks flew from their eyes. However, they restrained themselves and did not make a move. The emperor's corpse thought about it, looked at Suyu, and sighed. You failed again after 30,000 years. But the main culprit of this failure is actually an unremarkable small character. This is really unexpected. Perhaps the destiny of the constellation Sea civilization is not over. The Emperor's corpse said faintly. With a tap of his toes, he flew out of the ancient star and said, "However, I will not give up. Sooner or later, I will come back." When he finished speaking, he disappeared from sight. The corpse emperor followed closely and left the ancient star completely. Suyu breathed a sigh of relief and bowed gratefully. "Thank you for saving me in time, Chief Pavilion Master." Chapter 1764. Haha, no need to thank me. You provoked him for the sake of the people of the Sea of Constellations. I have no reason to sit back and do nothing. Huangfu Liang chuckled. Fortunately, he showed up for you. Otherwise, I really don't know where to find him. It turned out that Huangfu Liang had expected that the Emperor corpse would likely cause trouble for Suyu. Therefore, he had been paying attention to Suyu so that he could take action in time. The corpse kings who came after hearing the news were also very surprised, especially when they learned that the Emperor corpse was coming. They looked even more solemn. Huangfu Liang thought about it and suggested, "You'd better not leave the civilization of the Sea of Constellations in a hurry. The Emperor corpse is very good at hiding. Maybe he said he would leave, but he is hiding somewhere in the Sea of Constellations, waiting for you to be alone to attack." So he was shocked. He had to be careful. Judging from the Emperor corpse's behavior, he didn't seem like an upright person. "Well, I will be in the corpse clan. If anything happens, you can find me at any time." Suyu cupped his fists. Huangfu Liang smiled. No problem. He returned to the castle, but he still kept a part of his mind on Suyu in case the Emperor corpse returned. At this moment, several strange breaths were reflected in Huangfu Liang's perception. The breath of an extraterrestrial civilization. Huangfu Liang frowned deeply. The appearance of an extraterrestrial civilization at this time was not necessarily a good thing. He turned around and stood on the city wall, quietly watching the extraterrestrial breaths go straight to the castle. They were an old man and two young men. He only glanced at the old man before focusing his attention on the arrogant young man. A strange light flashed in his eyes. Doppelganger was special cultivation technique. The cultivation of the three was not strong. At least in Huangfu Liang's eyes, he could suppress the three of them with one hand. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. With his hands behind his back, he waited for the three to arrive. Oh, no wonder the Sea of Constellations is empty. It turns out that the Corpse Clan has driven them to a dead end. Ao Xiang glanced at Gu Xing and understood the situation. The north-gazing Pearl shook his head. After all, it is a barbaric civilization. In historical records, no barbaric civilization has been able to resist the Corpse Clan. This Sea of Constellations is quite extraordinary for it to persist until now. The pair king, the old man in the middle, looked at the city indifferently. When his gaze fell onto Huangfu Liang, he frowned slightly because he actually couldn't see through Huangfu Liang's cultivation. However, there were many reasons why he couldn't see through one's cultivation. It could be that the other party's cultivation was higher than his, or that he had a special artifact to conceal it. The creatures of the barbaric civilization could only belong to the latter. I'm the former pair king of the northern kingdom of the Dayu dynasty. May I ask who you are? Huangfu Liang chuckled. My surname is Huangfu, and my name is Liang. What brings you here from afar? The pair king nodded arrogantly. I need you to do something for me. Once it's done, there will be plenty of benefits. His tone was completely like he was speaking to his subordinates, full of command. What is it? Huangfu Liang remained calm. The pair kings said, We are looking for a Constellation Sea's living creature called Suyu. You must find him within 3 days. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. Suyu? Huangfu Liang smiled faintly. He was not surprised by the purpose of their visit. After stealing the king of Beatty's tripod, it was impossible for the Beatty land to let it go. I'm done with my request. Do you have any objections? The pair king asked indifferently. Huangfu Liang was surprised. I don't have any objections. However, as you can see, we just had a great battle with the Corpse Clan, and we can't even take care of ourselves. I'm afraid we don't have the time to help you find Suyu. Please go back." Ao Xiong glared at him. "Old man, don't think that you can look down on us just because you are an emperor. The vast constellation sea in your eyes is nothing in the eyes of the Beatty land. Do you understand? Don't be a frog in a well." They naturally thought that Huangfu Liang was a narrow-minded person who only knew about the constellation sea civilization and did not know about the vastness of the outside world. "Haha, I'm not trying to flatter myself, but I really can't help you. Please go back." Huangfu Liang had an extraordinary bearing, and he was not angry at all. He waved his hand with a smile, turned around, and walked into the city. The Pear King's old face was filled with displeasure. "Have you decided to disobey me and the Diyu dynasty?" In response, Huangfu Liang waved his hand without looking back. A tinge of annoyance appeared on the Pear King's face. He strode over and placed his hand on Huangfu Liang's shoulder. "Sir, I'm afraid you don't have the right to reject the orders of the Diyu dynasty." Bang! Huangfu Liang's shoulder shook slightly. He did not seem to use much strength, but the Pear King's old hand was bounced off like a dead branch. The Pear King lost his balance and staggered backward. The north-gazing pearl supported him and scolded. "Ancestor, you were just being nice. Why did you hurt him?" Ao Xiong was even more impatient. "You are a creature of a barbaric civilization. It's more direct to speak with your fists. Ancestor, don't talk nonsense. Just fight." The two of them were extremely unhappy. They had thought that it would be easy to capture Suyu once they reached the constellation sea. Who knew that a random divine warrior of heaven and earth from the constellation sea civilization would be so stubborn? "Both of you shut up." The Pear King stood up. His face was filled with uncertainty. After hesitating for a moment, he bowed and said, "Junior Li Xen, please forgive me for offending you." The north-gazing pearl and Ao Xiong were both stunned. "Senior, there were only a few people in the entire Diyu Empire who could be addressed as senior by the ancestor. This dazzling golden emperor was actually being addressed as a senior?" Huangfu Liang was quite open-minded. He waved his hand nonchalantly. "Then, please go back. It's not the right time." Go back. How could they go back without finding the Beixin King Cauldron? If they couldn't find the Beixin King Cauldron, the Eastern royal family would be furious. The descendants of Beixin would be severely punished. The Pear King said, "Senior, if you like my insignificant strength, I am willing to assist you to defeat the Corpse Clan." They thought that the Corpse Clan and the Alliance of Living Beings were still hostile. If they had come 2 days earlier, Huangfu Liang might have welcomed them. But now, the Pear King added, "Senior, even if we go back, more descendants of Beixin will come looking for us." Huangfu Liang was silent. After a while, he sighed. "All right, come with me. I will gather a few colleagues and listen to your requests." Soon, the 3 cabinet masters, the Purple Dream Divine Warrior, and the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior all gathered in the conference hall. An hour later, Huangfu Liang said, "Everyone, this is the cause and effect of the matter. Do you have any good suggestions for the request of the guests of the Diyu Empire?" Except for the female cabinet master, who had a stern face, the others all had strange looks on their faces. Suggestions? What suggestions did they have? Were they supposed to hand Suyu over to them? In fact, they were even more confused. Why did the chief cabinet master agree to their request? With the strength of the chief cabinet master, he could force them all to leave if he was a little more forceful. The few divine warriors of heaven and earth looked embarrassed. They really couldn't come up with any good suggestions. The Pear King saw that something was wrong. He frowned and said, "Is it difficult to catch the human surnamed Su?" It wasn't just difficult, it was deadly. If outsiders wanted to catch Suyu, not only did the few divine warriors of heaven and earth have to agree, but also the 9 corpse kings of the Corpse Clan had to agree. His question was like asking how difficult it was to cut off one of their fingers. The few divine warriors of heaven and earth couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Only the female cabinet master snorted coldly. "He is in the Corpse Clan." In the Corpse Clan? The Pear King wasn't surprised. It wasn't uncommon for living creatures to betray and join the Corpse Clan, so it wasn't strange at all. "I see. May I ask how strong these corpse clan members are? The Pear King asked. The female cabinet master said, 9 corpse kings. Yes, one of them has a close relationship with Su Yu. Hearing that, the Pear King's face fell slightly. If that was the case, it would be troublesome. After thinking for a while, Huang Fu Liang said, since the Pear King is sure that Su Yu stole the Beixin King Cauldron, it's better to invite Su Yu over to confront him face to face. What do you think, Pear King? The Pear King was confused. Invite? How? Senior, do you mean that the 7 of us should join forces and go deep into the corpse clan to catch him? The chief cabinet master laughed and said, no, one of us is enough. He looked at the Purple Dream Divine Warrior and said, then I'll have to trouble the Purple Dream Divine Warrior to go there in person. Haha, no problem. I also have something to discuss with him in private. The Purple Dream Divine Warrior stood up and floated away like a fairy. The Pear King was dumbfounded. The north-facing Pearl and Ao Xiang were also confused. What was wrong with the civilization of the Sea of Constellations? Sending an ordinary divine warrior of heaven and earth to capture the traitor without any resistance? The Corpse Clan, Zhu Ji said, just now our people found out that a few creatures escaped from the city. Some of their cultivations were quite high. Chief Cabinet Master must have started to clean up the traitors of the Alliance of Living Beings, Su Yu said indifferently. Zhu Ji frowned slightly. What I'm concerned about is that one of them is called Tanlang. I remember that you are familiar with him, right? Him? Su Yu was surprised. I didn't expect him to still be alive. That's surprising. It was not easy for Tanlang to survive until now in such a huge war. He was narrow-minded and greedy. Su Yu's cultivation was not high enough at that time, so he lied to Tanlang that he was the direct disciple of the sinful lady. He did not expect Tanlang to believe him. Should we go after him? Zhu Ji asked Su Yu for his opinion. Su Yu shook his head. That won't be necessary. It's his fortune that he has survived until now. Just don't let me see him again. Right at that moment, a mocking voice drifted over. You two are in such a good mood. Drinking last month. The Purple Dream Divine Warrior was like a flower or mist, a faint smile on her beautiful face. Su Yu stood up to welcome her. Purple Dream Divine Warrior, welcome. You are now the great benefactor of the Sea of Constellations, and your status is comparable to that of the Chief Cabinet Master. How could I have the confidence to visit you? The Purple Dream Divine Warrior laughed. I came to invite you over. People from a northern territory are here. The Chief Cabinet Master invites you over. Zhu Ji stood up abruptly and frowned. They want to steal the King Tripod? No way. The flame in the King Tripod was the source of life for her. Su Yu comforted her with a smile. Don't worry. Since the Chief Cabinet Master has invited me over, he will certainly seek justice for me. It was not seeking justice. It was obviously to give Su Yu an explanation. He had done so much for the Sea of Constellations, so Huang Fu Liang had to show his sincerity. Let's go and meet them. They are here in the Sea of Constellations. Ha! Su Yu laughed with a strange expression. Chapter 1765. Wait, we Corpse Kings will go as well. Pearl snorted. I want to see who dares to ask for people from the Corpse Clan. The group of Corpse Kings had mischievous expressions on their faces, all wanting to watch a good show. King Su Yu returned to the city. Along the way, the Purple Dream Divine Master looked at Su Yu meaningfully and said, Do you remember what you promised me? Su Yu did not bat an eyelid. Holy Mortal Body, MHM, the Purple Dream Sovereign said. That was how they became fated with each other. Unfortunately, the ancient corpse race had attacked them violently, causing them to give up halfway. Elder, are you going to start looking for the sacred mortal body again? Su Yu asked. Unexpectedly, the Purple Dream Monarch shook her head. No, I've already found it. Su Yu's heart skipped a beat, but his eyes were exceptionally calm. He smiled and said, Congratulations, Elder. May I ask who the so-called Holy Mortal Body is? The Purple Dream Sovereign smiled mysteriously. It's a secret. He was deliberately playing tricks. Su Yu muttered to himself. Alliance Meeting Hall. Pear King spoke to the living beings of the Alliance in a pleasant manner. He no longer looked as arrogant as before. He looked at Huang Fu Liang curiously from time to time. As far as he knew, It was impossible for a barbaric civilization to nurture a divine warrior with 2 crowns. The Du Empire was a 2.5-star civilization, and it had only given birth to 3 of them. Unless there was one possibility. The double-crown emperor in front of him was not born here, but came from a higher civilization. After thinking about it carefully, the Pear King was even more certain that the identity of this double-crown emperor was not ordinary. The Purple Dream Emperor has brought Suyu back. A report came from outside the hall. The Pear King was shocked. In just the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, a sovereign of heaven and earth had successfully captured someone from the corpse race army? How unimaginable! Following a series of footsteps, the Purple Dream sovereign entered the hall first. A silver-haired youth followed closely behind him. His expression was calm, his clothes were plain, and he wore an ice crystal crown on his head. Suyu, Ao Xiang, and the north-gazing Pearl stood up at the same time and stared at him. The Pear King's eyes lit up as he shouted, "It's him!" The 3 of them heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the matter of losing the Beijing royal cauldron would soon be resolved. But soon after, more people walked in. There were 9 of them in total. The Pear King was stunned when she heard the first question. The Corpse King of the Corpse Clan? The Pear King finally realized the severity of the situation when the 9 Corpse Kings entered the hall as if there was no one else around. Looking left and right, he discovered that the creatures present were all calm. They did not mind being together with the corpse race at all, and there was no conflict. The Pear King's heart skipped a beat. The question in his mind suddenly became clear. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat, and his neck was stiff. He stood rooted to the ground, not daring to move. This unbelievable truth echoed in his mind. Ao Xiang and the north-gazing Pearl also realized the problem and froze in place. Surrounded by the 9 Corpse Kings, Suyu cupped his fists at the Chief Pavilion Master and sat down casually. "I heard someone was looking for me." The Chief Pavilion Master smiled. "These 3 guests insisted on seeing you, so I had no choice but to invite you over." The Chief Pavilion Master glanced at the Pear King and shook his head. He had repeatedly declined and tried to persuade them to go back, but they insisted on coming. He couldn't stop them, so what could he do? Suyu had a smile on his face as he looked at them. "Hee, how have you been?" Pear King, Ao Xiang, and north-gazing Pearl's expressions gradually turned grim. It was obvious that the situation in the Sea of Constellations was extremely strange. How could the corpse race, which was their mortal enemy, get along with the living creatures peacefully? Moreover, it was obvious that Suyu was protected by both the corpse race and the alliance of living creatures. What was ridiculous was that the 3 of them had barged in to ask for Suyu. Now, they were surrounded by them. Not to mention capturing Suyu and bringing him back. The 3 of them would all die here if this youth gave the order. The Pear King calmed himself down and forced a smile. Yes, it's been a long time. His original plan of beating Suyu up after discovering him was destined to never come to fruition. His priority now was to save his own life. "Why did you come all the way here to see me?" Suyu asked with a faint smile. The Pear King wiped his cold sweat. He didn't dare mention the north-gazing King Cauldron at this moment. He was afraid that once he mentioned it, they wouldn't be able to leave. The Pear King smiled gently and said, "Mr. Su, you must have forgotten that as the champion of the Great Void Hidden Dragon Contest, you haven't received your prize yet. We came here just to give it to you." Hearing this, north-gazing Pearl pursed his lips and swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. How infuriating! It was obvious that this guy had stolen their things, and they were only here to ask for it. How did they end up giving it to him? Ao Xiang's eyes darkened. He was extremely unwilling to accept this. He hated the feeling of being controlled by others and having to lower his head. However, the situation was stronger than him. "Oh, I almost forgot about the prize," Suyu said as if he had just remembered it. "But I remember that according to the rules, the prize is only to enter the north-gazing King Cauldron and use the nation's fate to comprehend it, right? Did you bring the north-gazing King Cauldron? How dare you mention the north-gazing King Cauldron?" The 3 of them were so infuriated by Suyu's shamelessness that they vomited blood. The Pear King forced a smile and said, "I didn't bring the King Cauldron, but I did bring the rest of the prize." Suyu said, "Oh, what is it? Tell me about it." He and the Pear King both knew that the north-gazing King Cauldron had already fallen into Su Yu's hands. Now, they were just bargaining to see how much the Pear King could offer before letting them go. How could the Pear King be stingy when it was a matter of life and death? With a wave of his sleeves, 9 precious treasures appeared. Most of them were enough to make the divine warriors of heaven and earth jealous, as they were also very beneficial to them. The first-place winner of the Great Void Hidden Dragon Cauldron will receive additional prizes in addition to comprehending the North-Gazing King Cauldron. Mr. Su, please have a look. Su Yu glanced at them one by one. To be honest, each of them was amazing. Each of them was a rare treasure that was worth fighting for by the divine warriors of heaven and earth. Even though the Pear King had once been a king, these 9 treasures had almost depleted half of his wealth. It was obvious that he was very generous in order to survive. However, none of them suited Su Yu. Observing Su Yu's expression, the Pear King's heart thumped. He was not satisfied. The Pear King was experienced and knowledgeable, so he knew what the problem was after a moment's thought. He couldn't help but slap his forehead. I was too careless. Although the prizes were precious, none of them suited Su Yu. However, he was a divine warrior of heaven and earth, so most of the things he carried were related to the divine warriors of heaven and earth. As for the rest, none of them suited Su Yu. Suddenly, the Pear King's heart moved, and he ordered Ao Xiang, "Take out the blood crystal Bodhi. That is also a prize for Mr. Su." Ao Xiang was extremely angry, and he transmitted his voice to the Pear King. "Ancestor, that is a divine item bestowed upon me by the Eastern Nations King. It can help me break through to the divine warrior of heaven and earth. How can you give it to him?" The Pear King shouted secretly. "What kind of situation is this? Your life is more important, so give it to him quickly." While the two of them were arguing, Su Yu calmly said, "If there are only these prizes," the Pear King had a bad feeling about this, so he reached out and forcefully tore open Ao Xiang's storage space. He then took out a glittering crystal. It was only the size of a thumb, and it looked like a Bodhi. "What is this?" Su Yu couldn't help but be curious. The Bodhi contained a very special essence, and the fragrance it emitted caused a stir in Su Yu's body. This is the blood crystal Bodhi unique to the Eastern Nations royal family. It is a divine item that can only be grown by watering it with the blood of the Eastern Nations royal family. The Chief Pavilion Master's eyes flickered, and he transmitted his voice to Su Yu secretly. "Su Yu, take it quickly. It is a good item." For him to call it a good item, it was obvious how precious it was. Only then did Su Yu reveal a smile. "I am indebted to Beidong's concern for sending these prizes from thousands of miles away." The Pear King smiled apologetically. "It is my pleasure. Then I shall accept it." Su Yu waved his sleeves and took everything away. Ao Xiang watched as Su Yu took the blood crystal Bodhi, and his eyes were so red that they were about to bleed. Without this item, his plan to break through to the divine warrior of heaven and earth would be delayed by at least 10 years. In the blink of an eye, Ao Xiang rushed over and grabbed the blood crystal Bodhi with one hand. Su Yu's eyes flickered, and he activated his space divine technique. The blood crystal Bodhi was teleported away, and it landed in Su Yu's palm. Space divine technique? Ao Xiang was shocked, and he grabbed nothing. He stared at Su Yu with a gloomy expression. "What is the meaning of this?" Su Yu asked coldly. Ao Xiang glared at Su Yu and said in a low voice, "Nothing. I just wanted to test the skills of the Great Void Hidden Dragon King. Not bad, not bad." It was obvious that he had failed to snatch it, so he was giving himself a way out. What was more infuriating was that his evaluation of Su Yu was exceptionally low. It was clear that he was unwilling to accept defeat at Su Yu's hands that day. After saying that, he turned and walked back to the Pear King. His gloomy eyes were filled with anger. However, there was a movement behind him. It was Su Yu who stood up slowly and stared at him coldly. "If you want to test my skills, I can grant you your wish." Ao Xiang turned around abruptly. He had come from thousands of miles away, and the Beixin Wang Cauldron was not the most important thing. "Good, very good. I thought you would always hide behind a few divine warriors of heaven and earth, not having the courage to fight. Ao Xiong laughed heartily and strode over like a meteor. I have been looking forward to this battle for a long time. He did not believe that he would be inferior to this nameless junior from a barbaric civilization. In this battle, you're not allowed to use external forces, such as that dragon sword of yours. How about it? Do you have the guts? Ao Xiong asked. Hearing that, Zhu Ji smiled contemptuously. Then do you have the guts to destroy your own cultivation and reach the level of a golden overlord? A half-divine warrior of heaven and earth against a golden overlord. If this is considered a fair battle, then it would be considered a fair battle if I fought you personally. Ao Xiong raised his neck and said with conviction, the second place of the great void-hidden Dragon King is a half-divine warrior of heaven and earth. Since he claims to be the first, he should be confident. Why, in the end, do you not have the guts? Are you just talking big? Anyone could tell that he was trying to goad Ao Xiong. Anyone with a bit of sense would not agree to it. Sure, I will fight you without using that dragon sword. However, Suyu easily fell into his trap. A cold smile flashed across Ao Xiong's eyes. Chapter 1766. All right, you have guts. Ao Xiong formed a seal with both hands. Proud sword song. Small green swords appeared between his palms, each the size of a thumb. Not only did each of them contain sword chi, but they also contained the faintly discernible afterimages of the nomological chains. The chief pavilion master nodded approvingly. Not bad. He has already begun to train the law of the Great Path internally and is familiar with its use. He is only one step away from breaking through to become a divine emperor. Zhu Ji also expressed her admiration. Although this guy is arrogant, this move is not bad. At least among those of the same level, there aren't many who are his match. The Pear King could not stop him in time and could only watch silently. Towards Ao Xiong's strength, he was very confident. Back then, when Ao Xiong's two swords had been defeated by Su Yu's hands, he felt that it did not fully explain the difference in their abilities. Firstly, Ao Xiong had underestimated his opponent and did not have the time to display his full strength. Secondly, the level of the divine weapon used by Su Yu was too high. In essence, it was almost the same as using an emperor-level talisman. Now that the two of them had agreed not to rely on powerful magical treasures, the Pear King was worried about Su Yu. After pondering for a moment, he sent a voice transmission and warned sternly, "Proud minister, no matter how much you desire victory, you can only lose this battle." What if she defeated Su Yu and he flew into a rage out of humiliation? Ao Xiong sneered arrogantly. "Don't worry, he won't die. I will stop at the right time and declare it a draw." "Are you ready?" Proud Xiong asked. Su Yu pulled out the Shura sword and placed it in front of him. "Let's begin." Seeing that Su Yu had taken out a true emperor-level divine weapon, Ao Xiong was relieved and said, "This is a fair fight. Then let's begin." Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The small green swords in his palms immediately attacked. Su Yu swept his sword horizontally. It was extremely heavy, and the Azura sword was almost sent flying. He stared at the chains wrapped around the small green sword. It should be because of Ao Xiong's powerful divine power. One sword fell, and another came. After a few consecutive strikes, Su Yu realized that something was amiss. The small green sword were produced endlessly, like a stream of water that would never be cut off. What was even more strange was that the frequency of the small green sword stabbing at him was getting higher and higher, and its power was also getting stronger. This should be the power of the Grand Tao, laws he grasped. Su Yu had already started to feel strained after blocking a few sword strikes. If he continued to block them, he might not be able to withstand them. Seeing that Su Yu could only defend himself and not retaliate, Ao Xiong laughed coldly. "Why don't we stop here? I am worried that I will injure you later." For a divine technique like the Proud Heart Sword song, one could either counterattack from the very beginning or avoid it from afar. If he was caught in it, he would only become more and more passive and eventually die under the sword. 90% of the reason Su Yu was able to resist until now was because of the Azura sword. The quality of this sword was extremely high. Normal true Emperor-grade divine weapons would have long been destroyed by this small azure sword. The Pear King also smiled and said, "Why don't we stop here? Mr. Su's strength is outstanding, and we can all see it for ourselves. Let's not hurt our relationship, hee hee." The north-gazing Pearl secretly despised it. As expected, I don't believe that one of Second Brother's 9 symbols can be defeated so easily. So you blocked the sword once again, and another small green sword attacked him at an even faster speed. "I've almost reached my limit," Suyu muttered to himself. Ao Xiang chuckled. "Don't be discouraged. You have been able to resist for so long. Not bad." Suyu shook his head and said, "I am testing how long I can fight you without fighting back. About a dozen breaths." When he finished speaking, Suyu's temperament changed abruptly. He quickly infused the Azure sword with divine energy. Before the sword style was executed, an exceptionally powerful sword energy rushed out of Suyu's pores. "Heaven's slashing sword," Suyu shouted. The long sword in his hand shot out tens of thousands of feet of sword energy, shooting straight into the sky. For a moment, the wind and clouds surged, and the world lost its light. It was originally daytime outside the hall, but now it was pitch black. It was as if the heavens were afraid of something and were hiding. Only the tens of thousands of feet of sword energy was incomparably dazzling, and the sword slashed down. Creak! It was as if a thunderbolt had flashed across the world, and the whole world was swept away by the sword energy. The sword light flashed, and the world was restored to light. However, Ao Xiang stood where he was, and the small green sword in his hand that should have been shooting out continuously seemed to be frozen, motionless. "This is the end," Suyu said lightly. Clang! The small swords that were frozen in place fell to the ground with a clatter. Creak! The clothes on Ao Xiang's body were even split into 2 from the middle, turning into 2. A bright line of blood spread from Ao Xiang's forehead to his lower body. If it had gone any deeper, Ao Xiang would have been cut in half. Huang Fuliang's eyes shone brightly. He believed that Suyu would win, but only if he used the Royal Dragon Sword. It was unexpected that Suyu had hidden such a move. He had defeated a half-heaven and earth divine warrior with only his sword skills. Huang Fuliang could not help but be deeply moved by such a talent. At least when he was the Golden Overlord, he did not have the ability to defeat a half-heaven and earth divine warrior. What about Suyu? Not only did he win, but he also deliberately gave Ao Xiang a dozen breaths time. Otherwise, Ao Xiang would have been defeated in the beginning. Zhuji was delighted. So the sword that caused the heaven and earth vision was him. My husband really hid his strength well. On the other hand, the Pear King and the north-gazing Pearl were shocked. If the last time did not count, then this time Ao Xiang had been utterly defeated. While the Pear King was shocked, he was relieved. Fortunately, Ao Xiang was the one who had lost. Haha, Mr. Su, you are a great talent. Ao Xiang is far inferior to you, the Pear King said respectfully. Suyu drew a flower with the sword and kept the Azure sword. He was not arrogant at all. He is just one of Bei Wang Chen's 9 xiangs. Even if he's a great talent, then what is Bei Wang Chen? The Pear King was stunned. Bei Wang Chen? What kind of existence was Bei Wang Chen? In the entire Diyu Empire, apart from the prince of the Eastern royal family, who was qualified to stand shoulder to shoulder with him, this kind of person had surpassed the category of a genius. Of course, he would not point it out. He smiled embarrassedly. Regardless, Mr. Su is a well-deserved great void hidden dragon king. Since our mission has been accomplished, we shall not stay any longer. Farewell. Since Suyu had accepted his item, it meant that he had agreed to spare their lives. The Pear King took the north-gazing pearl and pressed on Ao Xiang's shoulder, preparing to leave. Wait. However, Suyu suddenly spoke. You can leave, and so can Ao Xiang, but she cannot. Suyu pointed at the north-gazing pearl. The Pear King was shocked. Mr. Su, what do you mean? Suyu said meaningfully, I need one of you to stay and show him around the constellation C's civilization. They understood Suyu's intention. He wanted to keep one of them as a hostage to prevent them from committing the crime again. The Pear King was the divine warrior of the world. Keeping him as a hostage would be a disaster, Ao Xiong was just one of Bei Wang Chen's Ao Xiangs. He could be sacrificed at any time. As for the north-gazing pearl, Mr. Su, she is just the housekeeper of the Beixin Prince's mansion. How is she qualified to accompany you? The Pear King asked. Su Yu smiled calmly. Housekeeper? What kind of housekeeper can accompany the previous Beixin Prince? What kind of housekeeper is she? She doesn't look like a housekeeper in front of you at all. I think she's also a member of the Beixin family, right? Moreover, she is a very important member. Su Yu had suspected the girl's identity when they met in the Beixin land. Now, he was even more certain. The Pear King said, Mr. Su, why don't you let Ao Xiang stay? Su Yu said calmly. Someone, please invite the princess of the Beixin Prince's mansion to rest. Zhu Ji pursed her lips into a smile and hooked the north-facing pearl over with her finger. Su Yu's fair finger stroked the north-facing pearl's tender skin. He then said mockingly, What a beautiful little girl. Even I feel sorry for her. Why don't you come to my corpse clan to rest? The Pear King wanted to stop him, but Su Yu's calm voice rang in her ears. If the Pear King also wants to stay as a guest, I will welcome you. The hidden threat made the Pear King's heart tremble. She pressed on Ao Xiang's shoulder and flew away with a gloomy look on her face. Ancestor. The north-facing pearl cried out in despair. She had never expected that this trip, which was supposed to go smoothly, would end up with her as a hostage. When the people heard her cry out, they all smiled knowingly. They couldn't help but look at Su Yu with admiration. His eyes were really sharp. He had actually seen through this woman's true identity. Miss North-Facing, don't worry and stay. Zhu Ji said with a faint smile. We won't mistreat you. After the commotion subsided, Su Yu asked Huang Fu Liang, Can I borrow a training room from the General Cabinet Master? Haha, come with me. Huang Fu Liang led Su Yu to his exclusive training room. When there was no one around, Huang Fu Liang said, You want to know about the blood crystal Bodhi, don't you? Su Yu nodded. Yes, I do. What is it? It was because of Huang Fu Liang's words that Su Yu accepted it. Ha! I have to say that you have gained something good this time, Huang Fu Liang said. The blood crystal Bodhi is a divine item unique to the blood crystal clan, a third-rate clan. It can only survive if it is watered by the blood of the blood crystal clan. It has only one use, which is to increase the cultivation of the overlord level. Su Yu frowned slightly. The blood crystal Bodhi isn't the only divine item that can increase the cultivation of the overlord level, right? Why is it so revered? Huang Fu Liang laughed. That's what I want to say. The blood crystal Bodhi has a special additional function, which is to enhance the overlord's cultivation of the Great Path rules. What? Su Yu was shocked. If the overlord wants to break through the shackles and become the divine warrior of the world, the only way is to forge the Great Path rules in the Inner Mansion. So you can imagine how powerful the blood crystal Bodhi is. Huang Fu Liang said, Even the blood crystal clan rarely gives this item away. The other clans can't wait to get it. So he was surprised. He didn't expect the blood crystal Bodhi to have such a magical effect. No wonder Ao Xiang was so reluctant to give it away. Strange, then why does the Diu Empire have the blood crystal Bodhi? Huang Fu Liang pondered. I think it's because the Eastern royal family has a trace of the blood crystal clan's bloodline, right? As far as I know, the Eastern royal family never gives away the blood crystal Bodhi. Ao Xiang has one, which shows that he is valued by the Eastern royal family. You should use this Bodhi as soon as possible. Don't let them take it back. Chapter 1767. At the same time, it was a boundless, silent void. Ravenous Wolf drove the meteorite aimlessly into the distance. His face was dejected. Alas, one wrong move, and the whole game was lost. If I hadn't betrayed the Starry Pavilion, I wouldn't have ended up like this. Thinking of Su Yu, Ravenous Wolf felt sorry. It's a pity that the Chief Pavilion Master couldn't tolerate me, so I had to leave the Constellation C. Otherwise, if I followed Su Yu, I might have a chance to meet the legendary Pathmaster. While he was lamenting, there was a rumbling sound in front of him. A huge meteorite, comparable to the entire Constellation C civilization, pressed down on the void and hurried over. Ravenous Wolf gasped. My God, such a huge meteorite. It was the first time he had heard of such a ridiculously huge meteorite. Looking over on the huge meteorite, there were many beautiful figures of women in red robes. Each of their faces was covered by a different color of light, revealing only their beautiful and attractive bodies. However, with just a glance, Ravenous Wolf shivered and drove the meteorite away, because he couldn't see through the cultivation of any of the 20 women on the meteorite. As the overlord of the glazed crystal, he could see through even half of the divine warriors of heaven and earth. However, when he glanced at the 20 mysterious women, it was as if he was sweeping through an abyss. He couldn't see through them at all. He had followed the chief pavilion master for many years and often met the 3 pavilion masters. He was very familiar with this feeling. They were the divine warriors of heaven and earth. More than 20 divine warriors of heaven and earth. In particular, 2 of them gave him the same feeling as the chief pavilion master, which made him tremble. The last one made him feel even more inexplicable fear. However, the strange thing was that when he dodged to the side, the huge meteorite changed direction with him and crashed straight towards him. Ravenous Wolf broke out in a cold sweat and dodged in panic, but the huge meteorite crashed straight into him. Boom! The meteorite under his feet was shattered on the spot. Ravenous Wolf was horrified. There was nothing around him. Once he fell into the void, even the divine warriors of heaven and earth would die. At the moment when the meteorite under his feet shattered, a mighty force came from the huge meteorite, wrapped Ravenous Wolf up, and flew him to the huge meteorite. Just as he steadied himself, dozens of powerful auras that could easily crush him enveloped him. Tan Lang couldn't help but kneel on the ground and raise his head in fear. More than 20 Sovereign Realm experts were right in front of him. Say, seniors. Greed was the mystic crystal overlord, but he couldn't speak clearly at this moment. More than 20 mysterious women didn't say a word. The silent atmosphere was so oppressive that Greed almost fainted. You mentioned Suyu. Among the 20-odd mysterious women, there were 2 whose whole bodies were glowing with purple light. One of the women with purple light asked indifferently. Her voice was melodious and pleasing to the ear, but there were no fluctuations of emotion in it. Tan Lang, who had thought that he would surely die, suddenly had an idea. Suyu? Do they know Suyu? Ravenous Wolf was saved from death's door. He hurriedly said, Yes, yes. I'm his bodyguard. The lady in purple light asked, Then, is he still in the sea of constellations civilization? Yes, yes, yes. He was instructed by the Daelord's master to stay in the subjugation crusade to train himself. Tan Lang threw out the word Daelord in a timely manner. No matter if he was an enemy or a friend, he would be wary of him. Daelord's master? As expected, the 2 purple-clothed women looked at each other, then at the lady with golden light who was at the forefront. She was the leader of this group of mysterious women. The lady with golden light was indifferent for a moment. Then, she took out a picture scroll. The picture scroll depicted a woman with an unparalleled figure. Her face was covered by 9-color divine light, so her face couldn't be seen clearly. Seeing this woman, Tan Lang hurriedly said, Yes, it's him, Suyu's master. The lady with golden light flicked her wrist and put away the picture scroll. Then, she glanced at Tan Lang indifferently. The lady in purple behind her walked over and said in a melodious and pleasing voice, All right, you should go down now. Go down. Tan Lang was dumbfounded. You smashed my meteor, and then you want me to go down? We don't welcome men, the lady in purple said indifferently. She stepped forward and waved her hand, sending Tan Lang flying down with a great force. Falling into the void, Tan Lang didn't even have time to scream before he was swallowed up by the void. Then, the lady with golden light said indifferently, Continue. The meteor adjusted its direction slightly and sped along the original direction. That direction was none other than the sea of constellations. Suyu, who was completely unaware of this, was still in seclusion. After Huangfu Liang left, Suyu quietly spat out the crystal bodhi that had been in his mouth. Ha! It would be a great waste for me to swallow a divine plant object just like that. So you carefully pushed the blood crystal Bodhi away. Within the Bodhi meat, there were 4 black spots the size of sesame seeds. There really is one. The Bodhi seeds. So you smiled and peeled off the 4 seeds, throwing them to the little Kylan. Bury them in the supreme growing soil, and we'll see the results in a few days. If he could mass-produce the blood crystal Bodhi, it would be interesting. The little Kylan responded and went into the 9 jade spiritual pearl with the seeds in its mouth. So you tossed the Bodhi meat into his mouth. A sweet and sour taste mingled in his mouth, and then turned into a burning sensation, followed by a bitter taste. The strange taste filled his mouth and flowed down his throat all the way to his abdomen, then into his inner mansion. The inner mansion began to expand violently, bit by bit, and it was extremely obvious. So he was delighted. The effect is really good. It's immediate. Several hours later, when the effect of the medicine began to fade, Su Yu's inner mansion had expanded to a certain extent. All of a sudden, an explosion rumbled in his soul. Su Yu's inner mansion seemed unable to withstand the expansion and exploded with a loud bang. After the explosion, a huge amount of divine energy flowed into Su Yu's body and began to form a new inner mansion wall. The whole process lasted for half a day before the new inner mansion was completely formed. It was 3 times the size of the Golden Overlord's inner mansion, and the amount of divine energy it could contain was also several times greater. Clenching his fists, his bones were full of divine energy. So you felt that it was inexhaustible. The divine energy of the glazed crystal overlord is more than 10 times stronger than that of the bronze overlord. So you thought to himself, if I were to use the royal dragon sword again, it would be effortless. The only pity was that Su Yu's body contained very little dragon blood, and the power of the royal dragon sword was less than 1/10,000th. If only I could find a way to get the dragon's divine blood, Su Yu pondered. After finishing his training, Su Yu left the secret chamber. Huangfu Liang sensed it and immediately teleported over. After a brief look, he said with a smile, "Congratulations, you've been promoted again." Su Yu replied humbly, "In front of you, there's no need to talk about promotion. Brother Su, you don't have to be so humble. When I was your age, I was only a bronze overlord." Huangfu Liang praised him. He turned his eyes and seemed to be hesitating. After a long while, he made up his mind and said, "Brother Su, with your talent, with all due respect, living in the small civilization of the Sea of Stars will only bring shame to your talent." Su Yu's heart skipped a beat. Did he have something to say? "I hope you can go to a wider world, and don't let your talent go to waste." Huangfu Liang's expression was complicated. As expected, Su Yu said, "Senior, please speak your mind. Given our relationship, there's no harm in speaking your mind." With that, Huangfu Liang said slowly, "Have you ever doubted my identity?" Su Yu was silent for a moment, then slowly nodded. Of course, a barbaric civilization like the Sea of Stars really doesn't have the potential to nurture a 2-headed civilization. If I'm not mistaken, you're a visitor from an extraterrestrial civilization, right? As expected, I can't hide it from you. Huangfu Liang nodded, his face solemn. That's right, I'm not from the Sea of Stars. To be precise, the 3 cabinet masters and I are all from the extraterrestrial world, and we're the ones who founded the Starry Pavilion in the Sea of Stars. Su Yu's eyes flickered. We're here on the orders of the faction to find a corpse. Huangfu Liang revealed his purpose. He actually had a faction? What kind of faction was qualified to accommodate a 2-headed emperor? At least, the Dayu Empire didn't have such a qualification. He looked at Su Yu and said, "We already have some clues about that corpse. Many years ago, we sent a message to the faction and asked them to send someone over. However, for some unknown reason, after hundreds of years, no one from the faction has come." Su Yu was surprised. "Then why didn't you send someone back to the faction to investigate?" A bitter smile crossed Huangfu Liang's lips. "I did, but it was still like a stone in the ocean. Then there was a problem." So you had already guessed what Huangfu Liang was going to say. Huang Fuliang took out an identity nameplate formed from the yin and yang energies. What pure yin and yang energies? So Yu was secretly amazed. To be able to maintain the two energies without dispersing, it was obvious that they were in an unusually delicate state of balance. At least, so you didn't think he could reach such a level. So, I hope you can replace me and go to the 5-star civilization, the Tai Chi faction. First, report the situation here for me, and second, hold my identity nameplate. When you meet my uncle, he will understand what I mean and accept you into the Tai Chi faction. 5-star civilization. Su Yu's heart thumped. Such a powerful civilization was far superior to the civilization of the Dayu Empire. However, Su Yu still had doubts. Was he suitable for the legacy of the Tai Chi faction? As if he had seen through his thoughts, Huang Fuliang had a faint smile on his face. Moreover, I feel that you are fated with the Tai Chi faction. Why do you say that? Su Yu rubbed his nose. He couldn't see how he was fated with the Tai Chi faction. Huang Fuliang smiled. With a pinch of his hand, a mass of yin and yang energies gathered in his palm, transforming into a pair of black and white wings. Su Yu was stunned. Then, the yin and yang energies in his body appeared uncontrollably, revealing the true form of the yin-yang wings of the Tai Chi. Yin-yang wings of the Tai Chi. Huang Fuliang said, "It is indeed an item left behind by eldest senior brother. The first time I saw you, I found it familiar." No wonder. Su Yu was stunned. This yin-yang wings of yours is a true emperor-level divine weapon unique to the Tai Chi faction. My uncle extracted the divine bones of an emperor and forged them personally. There are 3 of them. The owners of the other 2 are still in the faction. Only one of them disappeared with its owner into the vast void. He was my eldest senior brother, the Tai Chi divine warrior. I'm curious, where did you get this yin-yang wings of the Tai Chi? Chapter 1768. However, when Su Yu first discovered that Huang Fuliang was proficient in both yin and yang, he had thought about it. Hence, although he was surprised, he could accept it. It was in a secret space. I tried my best to escape. Su Yu did not mention Tao Tai. Huang Fuliang's eyes flickered with joy as he asked anxiously, "How is he now?" Su Yu's eyes darkened, and he pointed at the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole. If Senior Tai Ching was still alive, he wouldn't allow a junior like me to get his divine weapon. Sigh. The light in Huang Fuliang's eyes dimmed as he sighed lightly, and he said with reminiscence, "If he was still alive, then his cultivation would probably be far above mine." Unfortunately, he suddenly vanished in the boundless void while tempering himself all those years ago. Was it swallowed by the Tao Tai? Su Yu thought to himself. This also explained the origin of the Tai Ching divine warrior. After thinking for a moment, Su Yu removed the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole. "Since this item belongs to your faction, I shall return it to you." He was reluctant to part with it. This item had saved his life many times before. Although the effects weren't as good as before, as the enemies they encountered grew stronger, it was still barely usable. "There's no need. Since you got it, then it's fate. Our Taiji sect values fate. We don't force anything." Huang Fuliang pushed it back and asked, "How many levels of control have you mastered?" Su Yu's heart skipped a beat. "I obtained the control technique from the descendants of the Tai Ching divine warrior, 1,000,000,000 miles in one thought. It's the intermediate level." Huang Fuliang said, "The descendants of the Grand Clear Sovereign can only grasp the intermediate version at most, because the advanced version is in the Taiji yin-yang wings itself." Huh. Su Yu was greatly surprised. Is the yin-yang wings hiding a more advanced control technique? After so many years, how could he not know? Activating the advanced chapter requires the Dark Willow mantra that Martial Uncle passed down to me. Unfortunately, I've cultivated it before, so I can give it a try. Huang Fuliang closed his eyes and chanted a mysterious incantation. A miraculous scene appeared. The yin and yang qi on the Taiji yin-yang wings actually separated on their own, revealing a palm-sized gap. There was a jade-like skeleton inside. The divine bones of the divine warriors of heaven and earth? Su Yu was surprised. Huang Fuliang opened his eyes and smiled. Sure enough, it's still here. He grabbed the skeleton with his hands that were covered in yin and yang qi. Tiny words could be clearly seen on the skeleton. Take it. Huang Fuliang passed it to Su Yu with a smile. You have the foundation of the middle volume. You will be able to comprehend the advanced volume just by scanning it once. So you gave a try on the spot. Sure enough, his comprehension was surprisingly smooth. As he weaved his palms together, Su Yu recited an obscure incantation. The yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole on his back suddenly expanded by 10 times. An unprecedented surge of yin and yang qi erupted. If Huang Fu Liang hadn't used a divine art to isolate the surroundings, the whole city would have been alarmed. How do you feel? Huang Fu Liang asked with a smile. Su Yu's eyes were filled with delight. It seems like I can immediately turn into the void and travel. Not to the point of virtual transformation, but you can still travel 10 billion miles with a single thought. Even I might not be able to catch up to you. Huang Fu Liang smiled. Su Yu was pleasantly surprised. So powerful? Wouldn't he be able to do whatever he wanted in the Du Empire and not be afraid of anyone? He then reminded, however, it's best not to use it unless it's absolutely necessary. With your cultivation as a profound crystal overlord, 10 breaths of time is enough to drain all of your divine power. So serious? Su Yu was shocked, and he remembered it deeply. After a moment of silence, Huang Fu Liang said, So what do you think? Su Yu was still hesitant. After a pause, Huang Fu Liang said, The Tai Chi faction is full of geniuses and experts. Do you know what my status is in the Tai Chi faction? The Double Crown Emperor would be an extremely powerful existence, no matter where he went. I'm just a core disciple. I'm not even a high-level official. Su Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. The Double Crown Emperor was just a disciple? What was the cultivation of the uncle he mentioned? What was the cultivation of the master of the Tai Chi faction? Seeing that Su Yu still hadn't made up his mind, Huang Fu Liang didn't rush him. He said gently, You can think about it. It won't be too late to answer in a few days. A few days? He was probably going to leave today. Although he didn't sense any danger, so you really should leave now. The sinful lady's aura that the little Kylan had warned him about was still a hidden danger. The Pear-King Emperor's corpse had been lurking for a few days and hadn't found Su Yu, so it must have given up and left. I might not join the Tai Chi faction, but if it's along the way, I can go to the Tai Chi faction on behalf of the Chief Cabinet Master to take a look. Su Yu offered a compromise. Huang Fu Liang didn't try to persuade him any further. He sighed. All right, I respect your decision. Take my identity token, just in case you need it one day. Nodding, Su Yu accepted it. Are you ready to leave? Huang Fu Liang had a premonition. Su Yu nodded. Yes, my two friends might have left the civilization of the Sea of Constellations. I want to find them. Huang Fu Liang said. Then I wish you good luck. But don't you want to see your friends from the Starry Pavilion before you leave? Mu Canghai and Yin Changhong want to see you. Also, that child Shui Guanyin has been concerned about your situation. We'll have to say our goodbyes eventually. Why add to the sadness? Having been through so many separations, Su Yu was already indifferent. Huang Fu Liang tried to persuade him to stay. The former is fine. But the latter, if you leave now, I'm afraid you'll become a regret. Su Yu smiled, but still shook his head. If we're fated, we'll meet again. Watching Su Yu leave, Huang Fu Liang sighed softly. That child Shui Guanyin has suffered. The Corpse Clan, Zhuji was interrogating the north-gazing pearl with great interest. Seeing Su Yu come in, she greeted him with a smile. My husband, this little girl is extraordinary. Not only is she deeply loved by the king of Beidong, but she's also the future wife of the prince of the Eastern royal family. Su Yu was surprised. He didn't expect the north-gazing pearl to have another identity. Oh, then let her stay in the barbaric civilization. With her as a hostage and the cultivation of the chief pavilion master, I believe the empire of Du won't dare to mess around. Zhuji smiled mysteriously. I think it's better to bring her back to the empire of Du. Why? Su Yu asked. Wouldn't bringing her back be like walking right into a trap? Zhuji giggled. I learned from her that something big is about to happen in the empire of Du. How big is it? Su Yu asked. A 4-star civilization. The Dark Star civilization will send an emissary to attend in person. Suyu was slightly curious. A 4-star civilization would send an emissary? That must be something big. Because the Empire of the U is about to be upgraded to a 3-star civilization, and the Dark Star civilization has sent an emissary to congratulate them. Suyu was shocked. 3-star civilization? Did someone break through the shackles? A 2.5-star civilization wouldn't upgrade its star level for no reason. There must have been a drastic change. The only possibility was the birth of a super emperor, which enhanced the strength of the entire civilization. My husband is really smart. Zhuji's eyes were full of love. It's the monarch of the Empire of Diyu, Dongfang Xia, who has finally broken through to become a 3-crown emperor. 3-crown emperor? Suyu's pupils constricted. He had heard long ago that there was a strong man in the Empire of Diyu who was close to becoming a 3-crown emperor. He didn't expect to break through so quickly. What does that have to do with us? Suyu frowned. Zhuji said in surprise, "Don't you know that when a civilization upgrades, the path rain will descend from the ecliptic palace? Any drop is full of the great path of heaven and earth. If you can absorb a drop, you can save years of crafting, and the great path rules will be born in the inner mansion. Only when a civilization is upgraded to a 3rd-level civilization will the path rain descend from the ecliptic palace. Such an opportunity can only be encountered once in hundreds of thousands of years. It's a great opportunity that can only be encountered by chance. My husband is now a glazed crystal overlord, and it's time to prepare for a breakthrough to the martial emperor." So he was tempted. He knew that forging the rules in the inner mansion would take at least decades, and at most tens of thousands of years. One might not succeed, even if he died of old age. Such an opportunity was indeed hard to come by. He believed that the overlord-level strong men in the vicinity would all rush to participate. This is also why the 4-star civilization sent an emissary to visit. Their purpose is also the path rain. I guess they will bring the overlord-level geniuses of the Dark Star to help them break through to the martial emperor of heaven and earth. Suyu understood. He looked at the north-gazing pearl and asked, "Why bring her?" Zhuji giggled. "The path rain is so precious. How can anyone participate in it? Without a referral, you won't be able to enter the scope of the path rain's grace. This person is the young princess of the north-gazing land, and the future princess of the prince. With her referral, you will have the opportunity to enter the path rain's grace." Now that he thought about it, it made sense. If the path rain's grace was available to everyone, wouldn't the Diyu Empire be filled with emperors overnight? You don't have to worry about this little girl being disobedient. I have ways to make her drunk and listen to us obediently. Zhuji smiled strangely. So he was surprised. He couldn't help but look at the north-gazing pearl. He found that although her eyes were tightly shut, her long eyelashes were trembling. Her face was flushed, and her nostrils flared. Her breathing was rapid. A pair of slender, round, and slender legs were tightly clamped together. Suyu understood immediately. He couldn't help but frown. Using this method to control people is too despicable. Zhuji did not think much of it. I'm the zombie king who has committed all kinds of crimes. It's already very kind of me not to torture her to death. Moreover, it's letting her sleep with her lover in her dreams. It's letting her off easy. Suyu was rendered speechless by the rebuttal. Zhuji said with a smile, "Do you want to know who her dream lover is?" "I'm not interested," Suyu said angrily. Zhuji chuckled. "You'll never guess that her dream lover is none other than her second brother, Bei Wangqin." This was unexpected. Wasn't it against the rules of nature for a younger sister to fall in love with her brother? So, you don't have to worry. After she gets addicted, she'll beg me to help her enter the dream. Zhuji was very confident in her divine technique. Suyu hesitated for a moment and said, "Just this once." After a pause, Suyu said, "Then get ready. We're leaving the Sea of Constellations. The Corpse Clan will be ready at any time, as long as you agree." She had decided to follow Suyu and never leave him. Suyu looked at her deeply with a grateful expression. "Then get ready to go." However, right at this moment, Zhu Ji suddenly raised her head and looked at the sky. Her playful expression quickly turned serious. The 8 corpse kings also appeared one after another, staring at the sky with grave expressions. What's going on? Many of the divine warriors of heaven and earth of the Living Spirit Alliance, including Huangfu Liang, appeared together. All of them looked solemn as they stared at the sky. It was as if they had sensed some terrible existence approaching the sea of constellations. Chapter 1769. Is it a crisis aimed at me? Su Yu's eyes narrowed. However, the line of fate did not fluctuate at all. Based on experience, once a crisis came, the line of fate would fluctuate without exception. Strange. Su Yu was suspicious. If there's no crisis, where does this oppression come from? After a moment of silence, Su Yu said decisively, "Let's go." Years of prudence made him make a quick decision. Zhu Ji also felt that something was wrong and left with Su Yu. Boom! The deafening roar shook the entire constellation sea civilization. A boundless black shadow quickly enveloped the sky above the sea of constellations, plunging the entire sea of constellations into a lightless darkness. Who is it? Huangfu Liang had a rare, solemn expression on his face. With a loud shout, the majestic aura of the sovereign of heaven and earth soared into the sky, transforming into a dazzling sun that shrouded the sky above the sea of constellations. When they saw the object in the sky clearly, all the creatures were horrified. It was an immeasurably huge black meteorite. It was like a pot lid, directly sealing the entire constellation sea from top to bottom, and no one could leave. Divine warriors of double crowns? What a surprise. A voice as crisp as an aureole, but empty and cold, drifted down. 2 graceful women, whose faces were covered in purple divine light, descended from the meteorite together. Behind them, there were more than 20 beautiful women with yellow light masks. Dressed in cloaks, their long hair fluttered, and their bodies were peerless, giving people a strange sense of mystery. However, at this moment, the corpse kings and the divine warriors of heaven and earth present were not in the mood to appreciate this group of beauties. All of them are divine warriors? The pavilion master was shocked. Especially the 2 women in purple light, who bore the brunt of the attack, gave people a sense of suffocation. She had only felt that kind of feeling from the chief pavilion master. The chief pavilion master looked extremely solemn. What business do you have visiting the civilization of the constellation sea? The 2 women in purple light turned a deaf ear to him, and their eyes swept around like torches as if searching for something. The woman in purple light on the left suddenly sensed something and fixed her eyes on Su Yu. With a shake of her sleeve, she shook out a delicate booklet and gestured to Su Yu. Then, she said calmly, "Target found, capture immediately." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Behind him, more than 20 divine warriors of heaven and earth surrounded Su Yu and the Corpse Clan. The people of the Living Spirits Alliance were extremely puzzled. There were more than 20 divine warriors of heaven and earth, and even 2 divine warriors of double-crowned divine warriors. Such a huge lineup was all for Su Yu. Stop! Huangfu Liang waved his sleeves, and the yin and yang qi turned into tai chi, protecting the corpse race in the center. He stared at them and said, "Who are you? Could they have been sent by the Dayu Empire?" The Dayu Empire was the only one that Su Yu had offended before and could support such a lineup. However, it was the first time Huangfu Liang heard that there were so many young and gorgeous female emperors in the Dayu dynasty. Dayu Empire? Who is that? The woman on the left said blankly. She stretched out her fair and slender index finger and lightly tapped on the Tai Chi diagram. In an instant, the Taiji yin-yang diagram shattered. Huangfu Liang furrowed his brows. If the other party insisted on doing things his way, he could only speak with his fists. I advise you not to get in our way. You can't afford to meddle in the affairs of the Sinful Lady Palace, the woman on the left said calmly. Sinful Lady Palace? Everyone present furrowed their brows. They had never heard of the so-called Sinful Lady Palace. Unexpectedly, Huangfu Liang's pupil shrank, and he gasped. Sinful Lady Palace? The woman said expressionlessly. It seems you know what kind of place the sinful Lady Palace is. Step aside. With light steps, the woman bypassed Huang Fulayang and walked toward Suyu. Come back with us. The woman made a grabbing motion in the air. All of a sudden, Suyu felt his limbs and bones were frozen, and his soul was imprisoned by an invisible force, unable to leave his body. No matter how many divine techniques Suyu had, he couldn't use any of them in the hands of the woman. Who dares to touch my husband? Zhuji's face fell. She was not afraid of the double-crowned emperor. She bit the tip of her tongue and spat out a mouthful of the corpse race's blood. With a sizzling sound, the blood corroded the invisible imprisonment. Only then did Suyu relax. The woman's face was calm. She made another grabbing motion in the air, imprisoning Suyu and Zhuji at the same time. This time, Zhuji couldn't even fight back. She was imprisoned just like Suyu. Take them away, the woman said calmly after easily subduing the two. A group of red-robed heaven and earth divine warriors surrounded them. Right at that moment, Huang Fulayang's eyes flashed, and he suddenly attacked. Great light technique. A powerful divine technique instantly shone upon the ladies of the sinful Lady Palace, causing them to be stunned. The divine spell that the Lady of Purple Light used to subdue the two was interrupted. Go! Huang Fulayang yelled. At this critical moment, he chose to fight against the sinful Lady Palace to save Suyu. Suyu was surprised and touched. His heart was filled with mixed emotions, and they fermented into extremely complicated feelings. Why was Huang Fulayang willing to sacrifice himself to help Suyu? Don't hesitate. Go. If you have a chance to pass by the Tai Chi faction, tell Uncle that I, Huang Fulayang, will always be the most loyal disciple of the Tai Chi faction. As soon as he finished speaking, the woman turned her head and said in a hollow tone, Those who go against the sinful Lady Palace will die. Swish! The woman was like a dream. She was still talking, but the next moment, she had already waved a section of the chain of rules. The speed was too fast for the emperors to react. Only Huang Fulayang reacted almost at the same time and used the chain of rules to fight back. Ding! The sound of nothingness shook everyone's soul. The woman said calmly, the way of yin and yang, Well, you're a disciple of the Tai Chi faction. Very good, but you forgot that you are only one person. Titter. Another chain of rules whipped Huang Fulayang's back silently. Boom! Huang Fulayang was caught off guard and was hit by the chain. He was immediately attacked by the rules, and his body was overflowing with colorful energy. Chief Cabinet Master's desolation power is fading. That chain represents the path of punishment. The woman said anxiously. Huang Fulayang couldn't fight against two people at once, and he was facing the legendary sinful Lady Palace. Why haven't you left yet? Huang Fulayang noticed that Suyu and Zhuji hadn't left yet. Suyu took out the royal dragon sword and said fiercely, They came for me. There is no reason for you to bear the consequences for me. Zhuji stood by Suyu's side, her eyes very firm. Huang Fulayang didn't know whether he should be relieved that he hadn't misjudged them or annoyed that they didn't see the bigger picture. Suddenly, Huang Fulayang thought of something, and his eyes flashed. If you really want to help, give me that King Cauldron. The Beijing King Cauldron? Suyu looked at Zhuji. Chief Cabinet Master, catch it. Zhuji threw the King Cauldron to him without any reluctance. Huang Fulayang grabbed the small cauldron and wiped it with his big hand. A large amount of national destiny was extracted, almost 90% of the national destiny in the small cauldron, holding the incomparably huge national destiny, which was 10 times the size of the civilization in the Sea of Constellations. Huang Fulayang formed a mysterious seal with both hands and bellowed, one breath into 3 pure ones. A shocking scene appeared. With the left and right halves of Huang Fulayang's body as the center, a complete Huang Fulayang appeared. Including himself, there were 3 Huang Fulayangs. Both their cultivation and aura were exactly the same. I will send you out. Huang Fulayang's original body flew up into the sky, grabbing Suyu and Zhuji with both hands. He shouted at the same time, all the divine warriors of heaven and earth and corpse kings of the civilization in the sea of constellations. Follow me. The two purple-clothed women were about to catch up, but they were stopped by Huangfu Liuyang's two clones. The clone's strength was exactly the same as the original body, and they were able to suppress the two purple-clothed women. How could the 8 corpse kings and the divine warriors of heaven and earth dare to hesitate? They followed Huangfu Liuyang and rushed out. Under Huangfu Liuyang's lead, the pressure brought by the giant meteor was broken, opening a way for the people behind to escape. In just 3 breaths, they arrived at the border of the Sea of Constellations and the Sea of Constellations. Limitless heaven and earth, yin-yang slash. Huangfu Liuyang attacked with all his strength, shattering the border of the Sea of Constellations and revealing a large gap. Charge! The group of people rushed forward and soon arrived at the gap. Huangfu Liuyang took the lead and crossed the gap, leading Su Yu and the others to escape. I didn't expect that apart from the few old monsters in the Tai Chi faction, there was someone who could cultivate the one breath into 3 pure ones. You are very talented. You must be one of the best in the Tai Chi faction, right? An indifferent voice of praise came from the meteor overhead. Huangfu Liuyang looked up and saw a woman in a red cloak standing calmly at the edge of the giant meteor. Her face was covered in golden light. Huangfu Liuyang's heart trembled when he saw her. 3 crowned divine warriors. Stay here, the woman in golden light said calmly. She didn't move, but the scenery around everyone changed at the same time. When they reappeared, they were in the ancient star, where they encountered the member of the sinful lady palace. The 2 purple-clothed women were still fighting with Huangfu Liuyang's shadow, and they were equally matched. After the woman in golden light arrived, she looked at the 2 shadows indifferently. She flicked her slender fingers twice, and the strong shadow of Huangfu Liuyang collapsed at the same time. The purple-clothed woman broke free and bowed respectfully. We are useless. Please punish us, young palace master. The woman in golden light said, It's not your fault. The one breath into 3 pure ones of the Tai Chi faction is an ancient divine technique that even the sinful lady palace master praised. It's normal that you couldn't defeat it. After that, she glanced at the many divine warriors of heaven and earth that she had brought back and said, Ziguan, give each of them a holy pill. Zi and Ziguan were the 2 purple-clothed women. Without hesitation, they each took out jade bottles filled with white pills. Huangfu Liuyang's eyes were full of fear. The legendary holy pill that can turn a man into a woman and make him forever be controlled by the sinful lady palace? What? The female divine warriors present were fine, but the male divine warriors' faces turned green. Zi took out a holy pill and came before the female cabinet master. She said calmly, Open your mouth. The female cabinet master rolled her eyes and cupped her fists. Sinful lady palace master, if you want Su Yu, you can take him away. It has nothing to do with us. She had an unforgettable obsession with Su Yu. The woman in golden light looked up at her and glanced at her indifferently. The next moment, the female cabinet master emitted golden rays of light from inside out. Then with a cracking sound, it was as if the inside of a piece of wood had been burned out and it shattered into countless pieces. Connected to the soul and flesh, the female cabinet master was burned to death on the spot. Moreover, the female cabinet master did not even react. I don't like bargaining. Do as I say, or die, the woman in golden light said calmly. The many divine warriors swallowed hard. Facing the holy pill that Zi and Ziguan had handed over, they could only bite the bullet and swallow it. Suddenly, they, who had swallowed the holy pill, underwent a change. The woman was fine, but she felt a little pain. It was probably the discomfort caused by being controlled. But the men, including Huangfu Liuyang, who were clearly men, all showed the characteristics of women. Not only did the lines of their bodies change, but even the characteristics of men quickly disappeared. Huangfu Liuyang was originally a handsome young man, but he turned out to be a beautiful, fair-skinned, and beautiful woman in her 20s. The same was true for the Snow Dragon King. who had turned into a slender, graceful, and petite girl. The unimaginable scene shocked Su Yu so much that his eyeballs almost popped out. However, the changes of the male corpse clan were very small, and they still retained the characteristics of men. Reporting to the young palace master, the attributes of the corpse clan have restrained the holy attributes of the holy pill, and the medicinal effects are greatly reduced, Ze reported. The woman in golden light said indifferently, then lock up the corpse clan first. As for the living creatures, she had never heard of anyone who had swallowed the holy pill being able to escape the control. Yes, Ze accepted the order. Ziguan looked at the remaining living creatures of the alliance of living beings and said, "Young palace master, what should we do with them?" The woman in golden light said without hesitation, "Search their souls to filter out useful information." Yes, Ziguan led the group of divine warriors of heaven and earth to search the souls of the living creatures present. With the divine warriors of heaven and earth being controlled, they had no room to resist. They all obediently followed the arrangements and accepted the soul search. The woman in golden light finally stared at Su Yu and said slowly, "Come to think of it, this is the second time I have come to the ancient star of the sea of constellations to find you." The second time? Su Yu's heart trembled. When was the first time? The woman in golden light walked up to Su Yu and said, "It's strange, isn't it? Why is your destiny sensing ability ineffective this time?" Perception. Su Yu suddenly remembered that when he was crossing the sky that day, he had a premonition that there was a crisis at the exit, so he left from another exit at the last minute to avoid the crisis. Could it be that time? In order to block this troublesome ability of yours, I specially went to the Yellow Path Palace and asked for the Taoist seal. No wonder Su Yu's destiny premonition had no warning when the crisis was approaching. Did the sinful lady order you to capture me? Su Yu's expression did not change. You are trapped in the Tao Tai's cage, and you still can't stay still, humph. The golden light on the face of the woman in golden light suddenly fluctuated, and a ripple appeared in her calm tone. What? The sinful lady is in the Tao Tai's cage? Su Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at her coldly without saying a word. Tell me, where is the Tao Tai's cage? The woman in golden light was a little excited. The sinful lady of the Sinful Lady Palace had lost the sinful lady for hundreds of millions of years. Finding the sinful lady was the dream of every member. Su Yu sneered. Give me a reason to tell you. Don't threaten me with death. If you really dare to make me stronger or search my soul, I will immediately erase this memory. You will never know where the cage is. The woman in golden light stared at Su Yu, thinking about something. Chapter 1770. The face of the golden lady shimmered, and Su Yu was sucked 3 feet away from her. Despite the golden light, Su Yu could feel a pair of ruthless, cold eyes staring at him without blinking. I don't like to bargain. The golden lady's tone was calm again. The fate of the lady was a warning. Who are his friends? The golden lady did not reply. The yellow lady, who was searching souls, immediately pinpointed a group of people according to the information. A group of divine warriors of heaven and earth was amazingly efficient. Within a few breaths, a group of creatures was picked out from the crowd. Mu Songhai, Yin Changhong, and Blood Guanyin were among them. From left to right, kill them one by one until he opens his mouth. The golden lady ordered indifferently. Mu Songhai was on the left, and he smiled bitterly. Anyway, he died once. Let him die. As soon as he finished speaking, a head was tossed into the air, and blood splattered everywhere. Su Yu's heart was calm. Wasn't just one death. At most, he could save her again. Next was Yin Changhong, who was also killed. Only Blood Guanyin was left, and Su Yu was still silent, as if he had no intention of saying anything. Continue, the golden lady ordered. Blood Guanyin smiled bitterly. I didn't expect to say goodbye to Brother Su Yu like this. I don't blame you. As soon as she finished speaking, she was mercilessly killed by the yellow lady. The 3 of them were Su Yu's best friends in the sea of constellations. Who would have thought that they would all be killed in such a short time? As the victim, Su Yu's face was tense, and he remained silent. The Golden Lady stared at Suyu for a long time and said, "Your heart is harder than a rock." After a long pause, the Golden Lady said, "Make an exception this time. Tell me your bargaining chip. Remember, you only have one chance." She chose to compromise. Compared to rescuing the sinful lady, any bargaining chip was worth it. Only then did Suyu grin. "Release everyone, including me." The Golden Lady shook her head. Obviously, she refused Suyu's request. As she said, Suyu had lost the chance to continue negotiating. "Lock him up and order the holy servant to guard him." The Golden Lady turned around and said coldly, "The 9 corpse kings were imprisoned, and the 5 divine warriors had become the holy servant. How could Suyu act rashly?" Several divine warriors of the sinful woman palace stepped forward, restrained Suyu's divine energy, and brought him back to the fallen star. Yin Xing didn't leave immediately. Instead, he remained in the sky above the sea of constellations, waiting for the soul's search to end. Clang. Suyu was imprisoned in the meteorite prison. The stone prison itself was not sturdy. What was sturdy was the saintess waiting outside. They were the emperors who had swallowed the holy pill and turned into females. "Hey, Suyu, it's not that we don't want to save you, but once we have that thought, the young palace master will immediately detect it," one of the cabinet seniors said helplessly in an awkward, feminine voice. Suyu looked over. She was supposed to be a mature and resolute middle-aged cabinet master, but now she had turned into an old woman who still retained her charm. Suyu couldn't help but find it funny when he compared his previous appearance. The sinful lady palace really hates men. Suyu realized. The empress of the sinful woman palace with peerless figures was most likely transformed from a man. Suyu felt a chill run down his spine as he thought about how they used to be strong men. The cabinet senior's face alternated between green and red. Avoiding Suyu's gaze, he said, "Anyway, I'm afraid I can't help you." Even if he would rather sacrifice himself and risk being executed by the sinful lady palace, he would still alert the young palace master with unfathomable power. Suyu said seriously, "What are you talking about? The sinful lady palace came for me. I should be the one feeling guilty for implicating all of you." Waving his hand, the cabinet senior sighed, closed his eyes, and sat cross-legged outside. "Cabinet Senior Lulan, you keep watch here. I'll be back soon." The Snow Dragon Empress had also transformed into a middle-aged woman. She was petite, and her face still had the domineering air of a man. The cabinet senior was shocked. "You left without permission. Aren't you afraid the young palace master would find out?" "Humph. I'm just leaving for a while." The Snow Dragon Empress snorted, her ponytail swinging. She looked quite girlish, and both Suyu and the cabinet senior were stunned. Wasn't the Snow Dragon Empress adapting to her female identity a little too quickly? Duh. As the light footsteps of the Snow Dragon Empress faded, Suyu was lost in thought. He had never been in prison before, so how was he going to escape? Countless strategies flashed through his mind, but none of them were feasible. All the divine warriors were under the control of the young palace master. Their lives and deaths were at her beck and call. Any small movements would be immediately detected by the young palace master. It would be extraordinarily difficult to break through the siege and escape from the fallen star. In the face of absolute power, all conspiracies and plots are meaningless. Suyu deeply agreed with this truth. The only fortunate thing was that they wanted to know the whereabouts of the sinful lady, so they would not dare to do anything to Suyu for the time being. But that was all. As he was thinking, the Snow Dragon Empress came bouncing back. She beckoned and said mysteriously, "Cabinet Senior, come here. I have something to say to you." The Cabinet Senior was startled. What could not be said face to face? There was no one else here except for Suyu. "Come here quickly." The Snow Dragon Empress stamped her feet and said coquettishly. Suyu, who was watching from the sidelines, could not help but have goosebumps and feel disgusted. The cabinet senior rolled his eyes and walked over helplessly. "What's the matter?" Unexpectedly, just as he stepped within 10 feet of the Snow Dragon Empress, inky black corpse energy suddenly rose around him and enveloped him. The cabinet senior was shocked and subconsciously tried to break the corpse energy. Don't move. This can block that woman's senses. The Snow Dragon Empress said in a low voice. The cabinet senior stopped in time and looked around at the corpse energy around him. He was inexplicably surprised. How can you have corpse energy? The Snow Dragon Empress smiled. You should be asking me. Why am I not afraid of the young palace master noticing that I have also swallowed the holy pill? Yes, her actions here must have alarmed the Golden Lady. With the cultivation of the Golden Lady, she could have arrived here with a thought. Why did she not notice? With a mysterious look on her face, the Snow Dragon Empress opened her mouth and spat out a pill that was tightly wrapped in corpse energy. It was the holy pill that the Snow Dragon Empress had swallowed. It had been suppressed by the corpse energy and had not been able to melt into her body. The cabinet senior was aghast and said, You were not transformed? Then your body, gazing at the petite and lovely body of the Snow Dragon Empress, the cabinet senior was incredulous. Humph, this is my original body? What's so strange about it? The Snow Dragon Empress laughed, her whole body surging with an incomparably dense corpse energy. Such a dense corpse energy could only be achieved by the Corpse King. You are. The cabinet senior was shocked. You are the Corpse King? The third emperor born in the Sea of Constellations, the ruler of the Northern Snow Sea, was actually the Corpse King of the Corpse Clan. What was even more shocking was that after so many years, no one, including the chief cabinet master, had been able to detect her true identity. The sudden turn of events caused Su Yu to be stunned on the spot, but he quickly realized. Could you be one of the 3 Corpse Kings from 30,000 years ago, the Undying Boy? When Gu Xing first came to the Sea of Constellations, 3 powerful Corpse Kings appeared and almost destroyed the entire Sea of Constellations. One was the Emperor Corpse. The second was the Pearl Corpse King. The third was the mysterious Undying Boy, who was proficient in disguise. The most frightening was the Undying Boy. No one could see through his disguise, allowing him to disguise himself as anyone and easily assassinate the enemy's commander in the midst of an army of 10,000. But for 30,000 years, no one knew the whereabouts of the Undying Boy. Even the Corpse Kings did not know where he was. It was really unexpected that he was hiding in the alliance of living beings, and that he was one of the 3 great Earth Emperors of the Sea of Constellations. Haha, you don't seem surprised at all, do you? The Snow Dragon Empress looked over with a faint smile. Su Yu was indeed not surprised. When I used your yin-yang hot spring, I should have realized that there was something wrong with your identity. When Su Yu changed his appearance under the identity of Shuiyu, he borrowed the yin-yang hot spring. When he used it, there was a large amount of desolate power left in it. Now that he thought about it, it must have been accidentally left in the hot spring by the Snow Dragon Empress when she was maintaining her disguise. Of course, Empress Iwei had also warned Su Yu to be careful of the Snow Dragon Empress. As the disciple of the Snow Dragon Empress for many years, Empress Iwei had never understood her master. She was like a dense fog that no one could see through. From all the signs, it was not difficult to guess that the Snow Dragon Empress was the Undying Boy. The Snow Dragon Empress crossed her small arms in front of her chest, dragging her steamed, bun-sized breasts. She said with a smile, "It's not without reason that Zhuji took a fancy to you. Smart. That's right. I'm the Undying Boy you call. 30,000 years ago, I disguised myself as the Snow Dragon Empress and infiltrated the alliance of living beings. My original intention was, of course, to be a spy for the Corpse Clan and stab you in the back at a critical moment. The Snow Dragon Empress did not shy away. Unfortunately, things did not go as I wished. I have no place to use my skills until now." After listening to her explanation, the cabinet master was stunned for a long time before he recovered. Then, what about the real Snow Dragon Empress? It was rumored that the Snow Dragon Empress had been a fallen overlord. After experiencing the ancient dream altar, she had advanced by leaps and bounds overnight and became the divine warrior of heaven and earth. This legend had inspired many creatures to train hard. The Snow Dragon Empress, or rather, the Undying Boy, curled her lips. Him? He died tragically in the ancient dream altar long ago. Otherwise, Do you think the birth of the divine warrior of heaven and earth would be so easy? The truth was so cruel. There was no legend of a one-night divine warrior. The cabinet master was dumbfounded. After a long while, he sighed in relief. No wonder we have studied it carefully. Although the ancient dream altar is rich in resources, it is not enough to support the birth of a divine warrior of heaven and earth. It turns out that you were just impersonating him. If that was the case, everything made sense. The undying boy dared to walk around freely without fear of a young palace master finding out. As a member of the corpse clan, he had a natural restraining power over the holy elixir. What's more, the undying boy was originally a woman. She shed her disguise and returned to the dignity of a woman, deceiving Z.E., who was feeding her the holy elixir. Fine, if you have something to say, we could talk outside. The undying boy crushed the chains of the cage and let Suyu out. Chapter 1771. Then Cabinet Master. Suyu said. The undying boy shook his head helplessly without looking back. They have swallowed the holy pill and are under the control of that woman at all times. I can't save them, unless one day I have a cultivation that surpasses that of the young master. The difficulty of advancing from a one-crown emperor to a three-crown emperor might not be achieved in a lifetime. The only people I can save are the corpse clan, the undying boy said. Only the corpse clan could resist the power of the holy pill and not be controlled by the young master. So you cannot bear it. Huh? The cabinet master looked up and laughed. We are under the control of others. Even if we escape, it will be useless. But Suyu, you're different. You have not swallowed the holy pill, so you still have a future. He bowed to the undying boy. Thank you, undead corpse king. Please take good care of Suyu. He is the only hope of the sea of constellations. As the Gaia heaven ruler of the sea of constellations, he had great expectations of Suyu. Suyu felt a lump in his throat. Suyu, take care of yourself. Don't let the chief cabinet master down. After saying that, the cabinet master slapped his chest. Suyu did not stop him. He let him seriously injure himself and lay trembling on the ground. This was to confuse the sinful Lady Palace and make them think that Suyu had been rescued. I will be back. Suyu clenched his fists and followed the undying boy to the prison. As they walked, the undying boy took out a bottle of spirit liquid filled with yin and yang. It was the yin and yang hot spring. However, it was the core hot spring. Touching it rashly could easily affect the yin and yang in one's body. She opened her mouth and swallowed the whole bottle. Following that, his entire person underwent a tremendous change. Her bones lengthened, her facial features changed rapidly, and her figure changed subtly. In the blink of an eye, she became a completely different person. Young master? Suyu was surprised. Both her appearance and her aura were exactly the same. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Suyu would not have doubted that she was the real young master. At that moment, two caped emperors passed by the prison. Seeing the two, they were stunned at first, and then bowed to the ground. Greetings, young master. The undying boy even imitated the charm of her voice, which was hollow, indifferent, and emotionless. She didn't even bother to explain, and just left with Suyu. The two red-clad monarchs did not even dare to ask anything. Only when they were far away did they slowly get up and continue patrolling without any expression on their faces. Along the way, they encountered several groups of divine warriors of heaven and earth, and even the saint's servant, who had just been summoned. But without exception, none of them had the slightest suspicion towards them. Just like that, they arrived at the edge of the meteorite without any mishaps. Shockingly, there was a small meteor that had been prepared in advance, hidden in a secret place. It was obvious that she had purposely set this up when she went out for a while. The undying boy pulled Suyu along as he leapt up. He took a deep breath and said, "Whether we can escape or not depends on this moment. Their giant meteorite must have an extremely advanced method of controlling it, but it's hard to say how advanced it is. Every meteor had been imprinted with the manipulation method of the 10,000 races by the Ecliptic Palace. If one was proficient in the language of a certain race, they would be able to use that race. I'm using the controlling hair of the Thunder Eagle clan. a middle-tier race. If we're more advanced than them, it'll be much easier for us to escape. Otherwise, they would die immediately. This was a gamble, but they had to take it. Think about it carefully. If you stay, they won't kill you for the time being. But if you escape and get caught, based on the way the young palace master acts, you'll be in grave danger. The undying boy stared at Suyu. Think about it carefully. Once this meteor starts to move, it'll definitely alert the young palace master. She left the choice to Suyu. If he made a wrong decision, they would die a horrible death. Of course we'll escape. As always, as long as there was a chance, Suyu wouldn't give up the chance to live. The undying boy stepped forward, activated the formation, and said, "Okay, then let's take a gamble. I hope my manipulation method is better than theirs." However, Suyu took a step forward and stood on the formation, saying, "However, I'll be the one controlling the meteor." The undying boy was taken aback. "Get out of the way, or we'll both die." She never expected Suyu to act so recklessly at such a critical moment. As soon as the meteor moved, the young palace master was alerted. She broke out in a cold sweat and immediately stepped forward to stop Suyu. Unfortunately, Suyu had already moved. With a loud, buzzing sound, the meteor started to move. "It's over." The undying boy's head sank, and he wanted to die. Creak! Almost at the same time as the meteor started to move, a woman with a golden face descended almost instantaneously. She glanced at the situation on the small meteor and, without saying a word, made a grabbing motion in the air. Suyu and the undying boy were both imprisoned, and their bodies and souls couldn't move at all. "I'm dead because of you." The undying boy was speechless. However, the next moment, the meteor under his feet flew out like lightning. That speed and agility made the undying boy dumbfounded. When they came to themselves, they were already hundreds of millions of miles away from the large meteor, and the suppression of the young palace master was greatly weakened. The Light Wings lightning flash technique of the Heavenly Wings clan, a third-rate race? The undying boy quickly recognized the name of the manipulation method, and his eyes were full of horror. Although the Great Beginning Realm had a common Great Beginning language, each race had its own inherited language. The inherited language was never taught to outsiders, and the higher the level of the race, the more so. How could she not be surprised that the language of a third-rate race like the Heavenly Wings clan was mastered by a small overlord? The young palace master was also caught off guard and grabbed nothing. "You are indeed the person whom the palace master wants to capture, and you even know the language of the Heavenly Wings clan that has never been taught to outsiders." The young palace master's calm tone had a slight ripple. However, it was only a slight ripple. She turned around and returned to the center of the meteor and immediately activated the meteor. Boom! 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 The deafening roar that oppressed the heavens filled the entire world of nothingness with echoes. The seemingly enormous meteor flew out instantly with a boom. Its speed was no less than that of the small meteor. The undying boy sensed the huge movement behind him and turned around to look. He was almost scared to death. How can such a huge meteor be so fast? If he had been the one controlling the small meteor just now, he would have been caught up in an instant. Fortunately, Suyu had mastered such a high-level manipulation method. She looked at Suyu with deep curiosity in her eyes. What kind of man is he? Is he unable to widen the distance between them? Suyu weaved signs with both hands, and a pair of enormous yin-yang wings flashed behind him. As the wings flapped, together with the small meteor under his feet, they flew 10 billion miles away in an instant. The huge meteor behind him had disappeared without a trace. The undying boy was shocked again. What a powerful yin-yang escape technique. I'm afraid even the Double Crown Emperor won't be able to catch up with you. The amazing thing was that it could bring the small meteor along with it. Although the young palace master was strong, no matter how strong she was, could she teleport with the entire huge meteor? Suyu was secretly amazed. It was indeed the high-level technique of the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole. It was indeed powerful and extraordinary. However, as Huang Fu Liang said, it consumed an unprecedented amount of divine power. In just one move, Su Yu's divine power had been depleted by 10%. Glancing behind him, he could no longer see the huge meteor, but Su Yu could still feel the feeling of being locked on from afar. Without thinking, Su Yu teleported 5 times in a row, crossing a distance of 50 billion miles. The feeling of being locked on was much weaker, but it still existed. At such a long distance, coupled with the weak perception, the other party might not be able to catch up. But in the face of the Triple Crown Emperor, how could Su Yu dare to have a trace of carelessness? The 7th flap, another 10 billion miles away. Su Yu's divine power had fallen to 30%, but the indistinct feeling of being locked on was still there. Su Yu did not hesitate and used the yin-yang wings of supreme pole for the 8th time. At this moment, the feeling of being locked on finally disappeared. The undying boy's perception was even more acute, and he said, "The Triple Crown Emperor is indeed terrifying. Even at such a long distance, he can still leave a trace of being locked on." There's more? Her perception was stronger than Su Yu's. Gritting his teeth, Su Yu used the yin-yang wings of supreme pole for the 9th time. Is there more? Su Yu's face was pale, his forehead full of sweat, and his whole body was sore and weak. He could collapse to the ground at any time. With only the last 10% of his divine power left, it was only enough for him to maintain basic movement, and he had no more combat power left. The lock has completely disappeared. The undying boy heaved a sigh of relief, his face full of relief. I never dreamed that we could escape from the pursuit of the Triple Crown Emperor. She still felt like she was in a dream, and it felt surreal. Swoosh! However, at this moment, an obscure, gray beam of light pierced through the incomparably long distance of nothingness, accurately aimed at Su Yu, and shot out in an instant. The gray beam of light came quickly and abruptly. By the time the undying boy realized it, the gray beam of light had already penetrated Su Yu's chest. Boom! In just an instant, a huge hole appeared in Su Yu's chest. Balls of gray flames started spreading from Su Yu's chest in all directions. Everything that the flames touched turned into stone. Oh no, it's the rule of the great path of petrification. I have to stop it, or you will be completely petrified. The undying boy's face changed drastically. Quick, soul ejection. There's no other choice. No one had expected the young palace master to be able to unleash such a powerful attack from such a distance. Su Yu clenched his teeth and soul ejection again. Did he have to seize another body and start training from the beginning again? Swish! Su Yu took out the silver fruit and tried to absorb the extraordinary petrification rule. It did work, but it was unusually slow, and he could not absorb it immediately. The remaining petrification rule was still slowly seeping into the rest of his body. He had to concentrate on absorbing it immediately, or he would be in danger. However, he still had to control the meteorite. Once he stopped, the young master would catch up to him again. There's a civilization there. The undying boy understood Su Yu's situation. He looked up and saw a civilization full of dust and sand floating in the nothingness. Su Yu did not hesitate at all. He immediately controlled the meteorite to land on that dust and sand civilization. Boom! The meteorite landed on the civilization, and a deafening sound shocked the entire civilization. Countless strong men rushed over upon hearing the news. The undying boy sensed it and heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this is a barbaric civilization, and there are not many divine warriors of heaven and earth. She was worried about what was behind her. Even though they had escaped the lock, the young master would soon discover the existence of the dust and sand civilization if he followed this path.